Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle we unite and trippin' orange and black and white. Who day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Now who gotta move rockin' on? Now who wanna move crossin' on? Now who wanna move out on? If you got stripes and you let the city know you rock 'em, yeah we got 'em, yeah we fought 'em. Like that black and orange up on 'em, bingo bottle, never stop it. To the beast and know 'em. Who they rockin' with the diamond stripes, flossin' on the ring. Cincinnati, she's our queen, we gon' show the world.
What's up everybody? This is Ted Karras of the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cincy Hat, and you're watching Bengals and Brews.
Yes, sir. A special Sunday edition of Bengals and Brews with a Browns fan. We don't have a Browns fan very often on the show, but this is one of my favorite Browns fans because he loves the draft like I love the draft. You guys all know if you watch this show, I'm a little obsessed with it. It's fun. But go ahead and introduce yourself, Bill. Tell everybody the stuff you do, where they can find you, where to check out all the awesome things you're doing. And thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Dale. It's always good to be able to come on and chop it up with an NFL draft aficionado like myself, especially even though you're a Bengals fan, I'm a Browns fan, probably should have some form of hatred, but we both love the draft and we're both crazy for it. So you can find all of my content over on X at Spark Scouting, as well as I'm on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Substack. If you search Spark Scouting, you'll find all of my NFL draft, NFL, and college football content. Also a writer and analyst for the Right Way Sports Network. It's twsn.net. Right now, I have currently 430 prospects on my NFL draft big board as we speak. We're going to cover a lot of them today, and there's more that we won't have time to cover. So you got to make sure, give me a follow on any of those socials, and we can come chop it up just like me and Dale are about to do.
Yeah, big fan of Bill. He's great at this draft stuff, and I love getting opinions. And I will mention again, as with everything, when it comes to summer scouting, their early list, their prospects that are eligible, some of them might be 2027, some of them might be 2028 ultimately. But we're going to give you the guys that we've watched, that we like, that we put in our top 10s at every position. This may be quite a long show because we are covering all the positions, all of them. And it's going to be fun. So I'm going to jump right into it. Going to change some things around here. Got a different layout, so we're not behind that. We're just little tiny people over here on the side. But that way you can see our list as we're doing this. If you're listening in podcast form, you can go check us out on YouTube if you want to see the list. But we're going to talk about them all. So however you consume your content, we appreciate you tuning in. And this should be a fun show. So I'll start with my top 10 quarterback list. I've done a quarterback show. Won't spend a ton of time on them. I've got at number 10, Aiden Childs. Number 9, Sawyer Robinson. Number 8, John Mateer. 7, Sam Levitt. 6, Fernando Mendoza. 5, Lenora Sellers. 4, Drew Aller. 3, Arch Manning. 2, Cade Klubnik. And at number 1, I've got Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. Bill, I'll go ahead and let you read off your list. Then we'll start diving in to some of these prospects that we have in common and some we don't.
Yeah, so at number 10 is Drew Aller from Penn State. Number 9, Cade Klubnik from Clemson. Number 8, Miller Moss from Louisville. Number 7, Nico Alameava, formerly of Tennessee, now UCLA. Number 6, Sam Levitt, Arizona State. Number 5, Fernando Mendoza at Indiana. Number 4, Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. Number 3, Aiden Childs, Michigan State. Number 2, Arch Manning from Texas. And number 1, Lenora Sellers from South Carolina.
Yeah, fun list. We'll start your 10, my 4, Drew Aller. So why are you lower on Drew Aller? And I can understand it because he's a guy that we thought could have been maybe the second quarterback off the board last year had he declared. But there is a lot of inconsistencies, and I'm glad he went back to school. But why do you have him at 10?
Yeah, so the big thing when you watch Drew Aller, he's got the size, 6'4", 247 verified, big body, has very good arm talent, almost elite level when you watch him, if the base and the mechanics are all lined up. Does show very good ball security. He's not going to put the ball in harm's way very often when the mechanics and the base line up. But that's why I'm so low on him, is the mechanics are, to put it polite, a dumpster fire. There's a lot of back foot throws. There's a lot of off balance throws. There's a lot of throws where he's leaning into it, like he's leaning over his skis. And that can all be corrected. But what concerns me the most is he has had private quarterback coaching since the 9th grade. In that time, that entire stretch, these mechanics should have been smoothed out long before we talk about them. So for them to not be corrected, that's concerning. When he's on, he looks like that second quarterback off the board that could have ended up in Cleveland, for example. But when it's off, it's rough. And I mean, my comp for him, and folks, if you've never seen my draft content, I bring comps for every single player that I watch in
Comp
grade.
king. He's the comp king, guys.
I'm referred to as the comp king. For me, I see Blake Bortles all over the place. The same things that we saw in Jacksonville: big body, big arm, but the mechanics and the off balance throws, it caused balls to sail, call them fall flat. I just see Blake Bortles 2.0, and I love the highs, but the lows are why he's at my number 10.
And I can understand it. He's 4 on my list, and a lot of it is the size, the natural arm talent, the things that I like in a quarterback, but I cannot disagree with any of the reasons you have him lower. He's just got to be more consistent, and that's with his fundamentals. That's with performances game to game. He's got to show up in bigger moments. I have to see that this season for him to stick at my list. One note I have, and that's the only thing I'll add. In my notes, I put, it's put up or shut up time. Could be a top 5 pick or could underperform like Ewers and Beck did in 2024. That's just how I feel about him. It could go either way. So Bill having him at 10, it's not a shock, honestly, because he's one of those guys. We could be 3 games in and I'm going, well, shit, I don't see the consistent improvement. He's still doing some of the same things. The footwork sloppy. I'm moving him down because I expect other guys will be performing better than we can imagine. And he's been doing this now for a few seasons. So it is time to either be that guy or to drop down the board for me. So it's going to go one way or the other. I don't imagine he'll end up at 4. I think he'll be in my top 3, or I think he'll be out of my top 10. That is really how I feel this season could go for him. So he's all over the place on what he's got to do this season to be the man. I'll go to my 10 next, and that's Aiden Childs, because you have him at 3. So we'll discuss him. We'll kind of bounce around a lot of these lists instead of just going 10, 9, 8, but talk about a bunch of different guys. 6'3", 217. Wasn't a guy I'd watched too much, but with Mrs. Our Relevant podcast, we covered Michigan State. So he was a guy I had to watch more, and I know that Bill liked him, Newt likes him. There's a lot of people that are high on this guy, Owen as well. But he's got the size, the arm strength, mobility. He's got to be quicker processing. He definitely came on the second half of the season, and I'm sure maybe the first half of the season was bad. A lot of turnovers, a lot of just inconsistent play. It did improve the second half. I need to see more of it for him to move up my board, but the traits are there for him to be a high-profile quarterback, and I'll let you talk about it more since you've got him up at 3.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. 6'3", 217, has some really good arm talent. The deep ball accuracy is impressive. He's very accurate when he's able to plant his feet and follow through. A very quick release. This is not one of those elongated wind-up quarterback pitcher releases. This thing gets out of his hands quick. And you talked about it. You saw the beginning part of the season was very rough. And then as the season went on, he continued to improve. So you can see that kind of upswing. In addition, he's very elusive as a scrambler. It's not talked about enough because he doesn't do it enough, because he tries to win from the pocket, which I appreciate from a quarterback standpoint, but he has the wheels to use it. The problem is, and you talked about it, processing speed is just a click late. And his ball security, 11 interceptions and 6 fumbles, that's going to get you benched in the NFL really fast. So he's got to tighten that up. And he also struggles with short and intermediate rhythmic passing. So when you've got to get those quick slant passes, those quick curl routes and those quick passes, he struggles with those, which is pretty shocking, because normally if you have good mechanics and a good release like he does, it's pretty automatic. So that one is a little bit concerning for me. But when I watch him, I see everything that I saw in Jordan Love when he was at Utah State and then ended up in round 1 to Green Bay. And I think that's going to be his career path. Should he come out this year, is he needs to go to a team like the Rams, for example, sit a year behind Matthew Stafford in Sean McVay's offense, learn the offense, develop some of those things. And then next year we're talking about him as a true star in the league, or he is also a true junior. So he could return to school for another year. I think it boils down to how high is his stock going to be, especially considering, because you look at the top 3 guys on my board, they could all return to school in Lenore Sellers, Arch Manning, and Aiden Childs. So those 3 guys are all going to be based on how high their stock goes. And Aiden Childs, the big benefit he's got a really great wide receiver in Nick Marsh, a really good tight end in Jack Velling, and a play caller in Jonathan Smith, who he's worked with since Oregon State, and is a little underrated in my opinion.
Yeah, man, all great points. And I do have him more as a 27 guy, but and maybe that's why he's a little lower on my list too. That's why I've said, like, I need to see this season, but he certainly could climb on my board. I'll go to the guy I have at 9, Sawyer Robertson, not on your list, but big body, good arm, Baylor quarterback, 6'4", 220, redshirt senior. The accuracy is improved. He's tough, impressive throwing on the move, good mobility, but he did have 8 interceptions last year. He's got to cut down on those, got to be more consistent with the throwing mechanics. But I think he's trending upward. Could be a sneaky mid-round guy. Did you watch Robertson or have any thoughts on him, even though he's not on your list?
I did. So Robertson for me is like an early 4th round guy, because while he does have that big frame, what concerns me is normally when you see larger guys, they have a larger arm. Robertson has somewhat of a disappointing arm for a guy his size. So it's good NFL strength. It's adequate for a guy of his size. But like we talked with Drew Aller earlier, he's got a cannon at 6'4", 247. You know, we look at Sawyer Robertson at 6'4", 220, essentially, and we don't see it. But, you know, he's got good accuracy to all levels of the field. But that 220 pounds, it's a lanky 220. It's not like a well-built 220. So I'm concerned about how well he's going to be able to handle the rigors of a full NFL season. Plus, when he's moved off his spot, his arm loses a lot of velocity and a lot of generation of torque, which causes issues on passes falling at receivers' feet. For me, I comped him to Jake Delhomme, which is perfectly fine in the NFL. You can win games with a Jake Delhomme, but do you want to take him in the top 90 to 100 picks of the NFL draft?
Yeah, I agree. And that's even at 9 for me. I'm saying sneaky mid-round pick for my number 9 here. So that's kind of a little bit of the difference in our list. You know, your lists are all guys you think could be top 2 rounds. Is that fair to say? Top 3? I mean, like even Aller, maybe.
Yeah, I would say Aller's the lowest. At 10th, he would probably be somewhere around mid to late round 3. So it's all day 1 and day 2 guys.
Yeah, that's and where mine, some of these guys are already day 3, especially Childs, because I look at him more as a 2027 guy. So right now I've got like 4th, 5th round, and then Robinson I've got as that sneaky, could be maybe slide to the back of the 3rd, but probably a 4th round prospect, which is about where you have him, even though he's not in your top 10. We'll talk about a guy that's not in my top 10. We'll save Klubnik for a minute, and that's your number 8, Miller Moss. He's 12th on my list, so he's not too far off of the top 10 for me, but I'll let you start with Miller Moss, who is transferring this year to Louisville from USC.
Yes. So Miller Moss, 6'1", 213 at verified. You talked about it. He's going from USC, going to Louisville with Jeff Brom, which that is a big check mark anything, because we don't talk about it enough. The Broms are quarterback whisperers with what they were able to do with Tyler Shuck and Aiden O'Connell and even Brian Brom. But Miller Moss has probably one of the quickest releases on tape of any quarterback in this class. That ball comes out like lightning, and he's got very good touch, very good accuracy. He also progresses very quickly through his reads. When you watch LSU versus USC in week 1 last year, there was a point during the end of the game, I think it was the game-winning throw, where he went through what felt like 4 to 5 reads in 2.7 seconds. He was just snapping them off quickly. Shows a really good high football IQ, especially when he looks at those pre-snap adjustments. So he's very intelligent and he's very integral in what he does. The problem is the arm strength, right? His arm is not a big arm. It's not like Drew Allers. It's not even in the Sawyer Robertson neighborhood. It's adequate. It's gonna make the NFL throws you need, but it's gonna look like a little bit of a wobbly duck when you start looking at deep passes. He's also very limited as an athlete. This is not a athletic guy. He can get out in space and pick up some yards now and again, but that's not really his game. For me, I'm higher on him because if I have a quarterback that doesn't have the arm talent, he's got to be able to be intelligent, not turn the ball over, find those quick progressions and progress through the offense, be accurate, which he's been able to do. And I compared him to Aiden O'Connell, just the same guy that Brom worked with at Purdue. And I think that's going to be Miller Moss's career path. He's going to be, for me, I've got him somewhere in the middle to late parts of round 2, early parts of round 3, where a team that needs a quarterback but doesn't want to spend early capital, they take him, start him his rookie season. It probably won't work out long term, just like it did with Aiden O'Connell. You're going to constantly be looking for that next guy that's got the arm talent. But if you need a guy to come in and win you 4 to 5 games down the stretch, Miller Moss is a perfect candidate.
Yeah, and things you mentioned, things I have: accuracy, processing speed. And I thought he was a scapegoat because people are going to probably look at him and go, well, he was benched at USC.
Yep.
I don't think he deserved to be benched. That's one thing that, why he's still even, he's close to my top 10. He's at 12. And I think if he starts off hot at Louisville, he's going to be a name we're talking about moving right on up the board that some people don't necessarily see coming. So I like Miller Moss quite a bit as well. My number 8 is not on your list. So John Mateer, I know he's a little undersized, transferring to Oklahoma this year. I just think he's tough as nails. He's got good accuracy, very athletic. He's a true dual threat quarterback. So he can run and he can throw. He put up 390 passing yards and 111 rushing against San Jose State in a double overtime thriller. So if you're looking for a game to watch, that's one I noted. But ton of production. I do think sometimes he looks to run too soon, but he is an electric playmaker as a runner, and just a guy that I think is going to benefit from transferring to Oklahoma, but it could also go badly. So, and he's another guy who I believe is only a junior, so he could end up being 2027. He may not come out this year, but I've got him at 8. So I've kind of got him once again that maybe late 3rd round, 4th round. So it's not like a guy that I have as a 2nd, 3rd round guy at this time, but I do think he's one that could climb up boards, and I have him on my list. Did you watch John Mateer at all, even though he's not on your list?
I did. So John Mateer's kind of in that same neighborhood with Sawyer Robertson. He's an early 4th round guy because he's probably one of the most electric players in college football when it comes to quarterback positions, because he's got a suddenness at a runner. I think he forced 55 missed tackles this past season as a runner. He just makes defenders look silly. He also does show patience in the pocket and shows a really good short area quickness and throws well with anticipation on the intermediate routes. What concerns me, though, as a quarterback prospect is I take a bit of a closer look when you can't hit the short throws, the easy stuff, the 1 to 10 yard stuff. And for him, the ball placement's inconsistent. Sometimes it's at their knees, sometimes it's behind them, sometimes it sails. That shows me that there's a mechanics concern, and that's something that can absolutely be smoothed out. He also does show a very concerning tendency to hold onto the ball too long. A lot of times, especially when you have 2 high safety looks and they rotate pre-snap and post-snap, it confuses him and he holds on to it. He doesn't trust his eyes. So when I have a mechanics concern and now I don't trust my eyes, it calls into question if he can be a starter long-term. My comp for him is a more athletic Matt Corral, which sounds bad because obviously Matt Corral
I like Corral coming out. He's one of those that I'm like, I just got to take that one on the chin. Did not work out, which makes me more cautious on Ole Miss quarterbacks now.
100%. And it sounds bad, but when you watched Corral at Ole Miss, he was very athletic. But I think Mateer is even more athletic than that. So I just need more consistency from Mateer, and especially now going to a higher level of competition in the SEC. We're going to find out very quickly, week 2 versus Michigan, if he's up to snuff or if he's going to fall by the wayside.
Well, let's get another one that's on your list since Mateer Robertson was on mine and not on yours. But Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee transferring to UCLA. Obviously, that was a whole cluster there of his transfer situation, but a very talented quarterback, great size at 6'6". But I'll let you talk more about Nico here. You're quarterback 7.
Yeah, so you hit on it. A great size, 6'6", 215. The arm talent just jumps off the tape. There is not a throw that he cannot make and not generate velocity on. You know, a very good release. It's lightning in a bottle. He sees it, he rips it, especially in RPO concepts. It's coming out. You know, also has the ability to still generate torque and velocity on his passes from different arm angles, side angles, back foot throws. The arm strength doesn't really drop off, which shows a very strong arm. You know, does still need to work on his processing speed because you saw it start to improve as the season went on, but it still was a click late, which he made up for with a quick release and good arm. It got there, but sometimes it got there a little later than it should have. At 6'6", 215, you are on the leader side of things. I would love to see him pack on probably 10 more pounds, get to that 225 mark, and be able to handle a full NFL season. And then we have to talk about the elephant in the room. It is the whole Tennessee to UCLA, the whole NIL conversation. He's going to get asked about it in the NFL. There's no doubt that someone's not going to ask him about it. I think it works out for him in 2 reasons. Number one is that everything that I've heard and seen, it wasn't generated by him. It was generated by external factors, his family, his friends, things like that. So he'll be able to speak to that. And number 2, that passing offense at Tennessee is not translatable in any way, shape, or form to the NFL. So he would have had that question mark on him if he had stayed at Tennessee, because it's a veer and shoot, one read, run it, gun it, RPO style of offense, similar to Ole Miss's, that just doesn't translate well. Now that he's at UCLA, they run a lot of spread concepts with more West Coast style mixed in. So he's in a better offense. We saw that offense ran by Indiana this past season with Sunseri, now the offensive coordinator at UCLA. So I think those 2 things are working out for him well. I don't see a world where he declares this season unless he goes out and he lights it up and he plays up to the comp that I have for him, which is Justin Herbert. If he comes out and has a Justin Herbert-esque run at UCLA, I think we'll see him. Otherwise, he's going to be a 2027 guy.
Yeah, bring in the fire with that one. But yeah, that's kind of, I won't even speak on him because I haven't dove too deeply. I watched the player obviously here and there with scouting other prospects, but I've got him strictly as 2027. But you can bet your ass if he's balling out 4 or 5 weeks into the season, I'm going to be catching up on him, going, okay, he's probably coming out, and I need to do that catch up on him. The next guy on my list, 7, he's your number 6, so perfect for us to talk about some of these next couple guys. Sam Levitt, 6'2", 200, only heading into his redshirt sophomore season, was originally at Michigan State, transferred to Arizona State, helped get them into playoffs. You can say, well, that's Cam Skattebo. And hey, we know it was a lot of him. Sam Levitt had a damn good season for a first-year starter. For the season, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, so you'd like to see that cut down. But another very mobile quarterback, pretty good arm strength, maybe not elite, but I think it's good enough. I thought his processing speed for being a first-year starter was pretty advanced. So obviously something he can improve, but for a redshirt freshman that hadn't played, he seemed like that's something that he has, and I think he'll continue to build on. Now, at 1 year as a starter, it's a little limited experience. Cam Skattebo's not there. I think they still got Kanye Udo, who's a transfer running back there, so I think he'll still be a pretty good player, I believe, from Army. Not 100% sure on that. But he may also be a 2027, could even be a 2028 guy, but Sam Levitt's a guy you got to talk about because he's got a ton of talent, and he is going to be draft eligible. I'll let you speak on Levitt a little more, who is your quarterback 6, my quarterback 7.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head with Levitt. This is a guy, 6'2", 200 pounds, probably on a little bit of a lighter side. So you'd like to see him add some mass to the frame, but he is one of the best quarterbacks that we have on our lists combined in terms of ball security. You look at PFF, he only had 5 turnover worthy throws, excuse me. So he doesn't put the ball in harm's way. has a very good arm, had 850+ yard connections. So he's got the arm to push it downfield. Probably one of the best pre-snap processors in this entire class that we've talked about. Doesn't hold the ball unnecessarily, gets it out. Also very good athlete, scrambles with a purpose, doesn't really scramble for the sake of scrambling, but like I mentioned, you're looking 200 pounds, and I would be shocked if he currently weighs over that. I probably put him closer to 190. He also is a redshirt sophomore. He's still a young pup, still needs that experience. I think we probably see him in 2027, but everything that you see in the arm talent, in the athletic ability, in the gunslinger mentality, and Ryan hit it there. He's kind of like the 2018 Burrow, still trying to kind of figure things out. For me, I have him as a Jake Plummer-esque quarterback, and that's my comp for him, as Jake Plummer, kind of a gunslinger, willing to risk it. The good news is he has Jordan Tyson back healthy as his wide receiver, and he's being talked about in some circles as wide receiver 1, which we'll get to wide receivers in a little bit.
Yeah, could be my wide receiver 1 even.
Could be. Gotta love that segue, but I think depending on how this season goes with Levitt, we're going to either have him much higher than 7 for you, 6 for me, or we're going to be saying, hey, we're just going to slide him on to 2027 because we're not going to see him. But you watch him at Arizona State, and there is a lot to love about Sam Levitt.
Yeah, even if it's not this season, this is a guy who we fully expect at some point is probably a first-round draft pick. I mean, that's just I feel very comfortable saying that.
100%.
Number 6 on my list, 5 on yours, Fernando Mendoza, transferring to Indiana from Cal. I thought he played his football down the stretch. Game versus Stanford, he's very good. Displayed his ability to stand in the pocket, deliver while dealing with pressure. I think that's just an underrated thing, and I love that with quarterbacks, that are the toughness, that they will stand in, take the hit, get the ball to where it needs to go. Can run when necessary. Pretty good runner when necessary. I mean, I think he had an 80-yard touchdown at one point during the season and several big runs. I also think he's pretty accurate. That's what I've got on him. The ball placement I thought was good. I don't have too many negatives. Just seeing him do it in the Big Ten on a weekly basis, a little more to more, and just be more consistent overall, I think is something. But what do you like and dislike about Fernando Mendoza?
Yeah, so with Fernando Mendoza, 6'5", 225. So he's got the frame that we talk about. We talked about some guys that have been on 6'3", 6'4", but on the lighter side, he's 6'5", 225, has the frame, has the size, a very good arm. He can attack every level of the field. You don't have arm strength questions. Has a really good release. So especially in short yard situations, he's able to place the ball, repeat it consistently, and get it to where his receivers need to. Good accuracy. My concern with Mendoza is his internal clock, because he takes some sacks at a pretty scary rate. Now, granted, some of the sacks that he took last season at Cal were not his fault, because Cal's offensive line was a New York subway turnstile, just letting everyone through. But there were some games that were concerning because he's holding onto the ball in 3 seconds, 3.25 seconds consistently. And there's no clock going off in his head saying, hey, it's time to go. It's time to throw it in the dirt. It's time to take off, because he has the wheels to take off. It's time to take off, throw it in the dirt, check it down. So I would love to see that developed. The game is at a point for him where it's pretty significantly slowed down. So now being able to refine those little things like that clock, use those wheels. And for me, he's a more athletic Matt Ryan. And even when Matt Ryan came out of Boston College, he had a decent set of wheels, but that wasn't his game, just like it's not Mendoza's game. Mendoza wants to dissect from the pocket, which I appreciate. But at a certain point, you have to say, okay, well, there's nothing here. I got to get out of here, take off, get 3 yards, or get out of here, take off, throw it out of bounds. And I think that's what Cignetti's going to drill in his head. Like, hey, don't try to be the hero that you were at Cal. Here's the offense. Here's the answers to the test. Use them as you see fit.
And Cignetti is very good with quarterbacks. Curtis Rourke, I mean, everywhere he's been, he's a pretty good quarterback guy. So I expect Mendoza to take another step and could be even higher on these lists, but another guy with more eligibility. That's kind of a theme. We'll get to one who doesn't have any eligibility. That's your quarterback 4, he's my quarterback 1. It's Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. Another guy, 6'2", 200, so kind of like Levitt, kind of like Cade Klubnik, who we'll talk about next. Had to wait his turn behind Jaden Daniels. He's got good arm strength. I love his anticipation, toughness. He was drilled on the blind side and injured, but came back to play and ball out against Oklahoma. Effective throwing on the move. His dad is Doug Nussmeier, offense coordinator of the Saints, so he's got that football pedigree, the football IQ, the things you want. Has to cut down on turnovers. He's a gunslinger, and he's too much of a gunslinger at times, and it led to 12 interceptions last season. And the small frame does give some questions about durability for the NFL, but I still have him as my quarterback 1. I expect a big season. They got some good receivers that may be on some of our list here coming up for that as well. But your thoughts on Nussmeier and why you have him maybe a little lower than me at 4, but you've got 3 pretty good players, especially your top 2 players I like quite a bit as well.
Yeah, so he's my QB4, but I think there's every chance we'll see him in the first round. He's my 23rd overall prospect on my big board right now. So a first round quarterback, because you talked about it. I mean, he's a gunslinger, but he's got natural arm talent. He can generate velocity without straining at all, and that's at multiple arm angles. Shows a really good touch, being able to drop it in a bucket. A lot of his passes are just frozen ropes and just land in there. He also does have some inconsistencies in working through his progressions. Texas A&M was one of the games that I saw where he struggled. He got caught staring down his primary receivers, couldn't make it through that next progression, and then he paid for it. The other thing is his frame is a little bit to be desired. So verified measurements on Garrett Nussmeier are 6 foot flat, 204 pounds, which that's rough to swallow. I'd love to see another 10 to 15 pounds, but also you can't really add on much more at 6 foot without turning into a bowling ball. Yeah. But I mean, for me, my comp for him is Baker Mayfield, who eventually went number 1 overall. And I think Garrett Nussmeier can have that Baker Mayfield-like run at LSU because he's got the weapons, he's got the talent, he's got the ability, he's got a very good support system around him. And if you told me he was the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft, you'll get no argument from me because he's got the talent and ability. I just need him to stay healthy and cut down on some of those turnovers.
Cade Klubnik, so you have him all the way down at 9. I have him at 2. A lot of people have him as their quarterback 1 and maybe first overall pick. I am not there on him. There's a lot of things I like. Another guy with the size, 6'2", 205. But once again, Bill's got some verified stuff, which a lot of these guys, shocking, are even smaller than they're listed. But former 5-star recruit, played a ton of football at Clemson, 37 games, I believe, already. I thought he looked really good at the end of the season. I guess I'm banking on him continuing the progression that I've seen the last couple games and in the playoffs. He looked fantastic in those games. He did improve his interception numbers from 9 in 2023 to 6 in 2024. That could be a little better. He's got to show better awareness in the pocket, but I love how he ended the season. I think there's a lot there, and I think Clemson is absolutely loaded that this is a guy we should be seeing play in some big football games throughout the season and into the college football playoffs. So I think he has a case to help himself. But why do you have him at 9? And maybe you're a little lower than a lot of people on him.
Yeah, so again, Cade Klubnik bringing another verified measurement for you. So 6'1", 204. So we're not too far off what the school has listed. Obviously, at 6'1", 204, we have to have the same frame conversation that we did with Garrett Nussmeier too. But I mean, Klubnik's got the deep ball touch and accuracy. He's got the ability to throw those balls on a frozen rope 35, 40 yards down the field. You know, a very good improviser, and he thrives in chaos, which is a good thing and also a bad thing. When you're a quarterback that lives and wants to thrive in chaos, when things aren't chaotic and you're still playing with your hair on fire, it's a concern because you're going to start to kind of press on things. And we've seen it with Klubnik. He occasionally locks onto the primary read, trying to make that big play. His decision-making is very inconsistent, especially under pressure. He'll force throws into harm's way if he can't get out with his athletic ability. His short game, so the 1 to 10 yard marker, you know, a lot of the passes are put behind the guys. They're put too high. They're put too low. So when I have a quarterback, and I've talked about it a little bit, who can't make it work in the short game, I call into question their mechanics, which mechanics is one of those things that at the next level as a quarterback, you've got to be able to fall back on. If the bullets are flying and everything's going crazy, I've got to be able to follow my mechanics and my release. And I don't see that consistently from Klubnik. I think by the end of last season, at the end, he started to be on the upswing, but I need to see that upswing consistently to go any higher. For me, my comp for him is the BYU version of Zach Wilson. Big arm, athletic, tantalizing prospect. But we also saw what he did during his pro day and rolled out to the left and threw a 50-yard bomb. And I guarantee you, Cade Klubnik can make that same throw. But also, when you dove in deeper, there were some flaws that were concerning. There were some alarm bells. So I'm not there with Cade yet, and I see the vision that some people have, but he's just too inconsistent to go any higher right now. In probably about 6 weeks into the college football season, he'll probably either put it all together and be much higher on my list, or he'll fall out of the top 10 entirely.
Yeah, I love it, man. That's good stuff there. We'll go to Arch because he is my number 3. He's your number 2. I just haven't seen enough, but he's got all the traits, everything, the rushing, the arm strength. He's 6'4", 225. He's only a redshirt sophomore. I think a lot of us think he'll go and be 2027 because he just doesn't need to come out. There's no reason, and the Mannings typically like to stay and be there at least 4 years in college. He just now turned 20. Good pocket presence, good touch all levels, arm strength, team leader, like every quality you want in a quarterback, he has it. Not a lot of negatives I can say about him. I'll let you touch on Arch Manning, but I don't think we got to spend a lot of time. Just excited to see him play this season and play in Ohio State early.
Yeah.
No, either way, if there's even a thought to keep talking about him for this season. And if not, he's going to be 2027. He's still going to be a top 5 player whenever he declares.
100%. And you hit the nail on the head there. He's got every blue chip tool that you want. He's got the arm strength, pocket presence, natural throwing motion, arm talent, everything. My biggest negative on him is he's only got 2 starts. And I need to see more. I need to see more experience. You know, it's the Anthony Richardson conversation. We saw him come out with limited starts. Would we see Arch come out with those limited starts? I don't think so. I'm fully expecting not to see him, but the simple fact is he's got every tool in the toolbox. The one thing that I would like to see is his ability to show full field reads in coverage and processing against defensive looks. And that's just going to come with time, especially against Ohio State's defense. But I mean, this is a guy, if he comes out this year, he's probably QB1 for a lot of folks. He's QB2 for me. If he comes out next year, same thing. He's probably not below QB3 for anybody that you ask, short of anyone who hates the Manning family.
Yeah, he's just too damn talented to probably not be like a number 1 overall pick that someone's going to take him if he comes out this year or next. It is what it is. And another guy who could be a number 1 pick, your number 1, my number 5. And honestly, having him at 5 is not a slight here for me. Another guy I need to see a little bit more of, but I love Lenore Sellers, 6'3", 240, and maybe you have the verified, but he's a big old boy that can run. Only a redshirt sophomore, so he doesn't have to declare, but it's possible. He started the majority of last season for South Carolina. Magician in the pocket. Like, you think you got him? No, you don't. He's out. He's running the ball. He's throwing it downfield. Very talented player. Elite traits for a quarterback. Got to cut down on turnovers. The game's got to slow down mentally. But other than that, I love the arm strength. I love the out-of-structure playmaking. I think he could be a special, special player at the next level. So I'll let you talk about your quarterback 1.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. 6'3", 242 is what I've got for Sellers. So the arm talent, it's mind-blowing. He can generate velocity at multiple angles. A flick of the wrist and the ball's going 60 yards, and he's not blinking. You know, explosive player, out of structure, just an absolute magician. He is probably pound for pound the strongest quarterback we have seen since Cam Newton came out of Auburn. And that's being 100% honest. You know, the big thing that I love from a quarterback is a throwing motion that's repeatable, that you can do week in, week out, year in, year out. And he's got that. You know, we talked about it. He's 20 years old. This is a young pup. My big issue is sometimes he just wants to play too fast and trip over himself, and that's going to come with time. But I mean, man, I've got a comp of Dante Culpepper for him, and Culpepper eventually went top 11. So if you told me Lenore Sellers was number 1 overall this year or number 1 overall next year, you'll get no argument from me. I would take him number 1 overall, provided the development continues to be on the upswing.
And I can totally see him being a guy, if he declares and Arch doesn't, that he goes number 1. And even though I have Nussmeier 1 on my list, I could see people betting on his upside, his traits, the talent, natural talent that is there, that an offensive coordinator, a head coach that's an offensive guy is like, I want that. Let me get that guy. But I do, if hopefully he takes some of the strides that we have a little bit of questions on, but the talent is unreal. We're going to move on to running backs, and we're probably going to have to be a little quicker. 40 minutes just for quarterbacks, and we're doing all positions today. So we'll read our list, and maybe we'll just, instead of giving both our thoughts on some of these guys, we'll kind of go back and forth on some of them a little bit. And some guys we don't have. But I'll read my list first. My top 10 running backs: Jay Knott, Quentin Joyner, Justice Haynes, Jonah Coleman, Trey Wisner, Mekhi Hughes, Katron Allen, Darius Taylor, Nick Singleton, and Jeremiah Love. Your top 10 running back list to read, then we'll dive into some of these guys.
Yeah, so number 10, Caden Fagan, Illinois. Number 9, Mekhi Hughes, Oregon. Number 8, Jonah Coleman, Washington. Number 7, Datrell Jones, Boston College. Number 6, Katron Allen, Penn State. Number 5, Nick Singleton, also Penn State. Number 4, Darius Taylor, Minnesota. Number 3, CJ Baxter, Texas. Number 2, Justice Haynes at Michigan. And number 1, Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame.
I will you start with 2 guys not on my list, and honestly, they're on like my extended list to watch more of, and that's Caden Fagan and Datrell Jones. So tell me about both of those guys, your 10 and 7.
Yeah, so when you look at Caden Fagan first, because I'll take the spin on him from Illinois. This is a big bruising running back. It's pretty simple. 6'3", 240 is what I've got listed.
Ooh,
but good straight line speed for a guy his size. He's gonna be a short yardage back. He's gonna be a goal line situation. Does show some decent hands in the passing game. So for me, he's very similar to a Brandon Jacobs type of guy, which is my comp for him. He is an early round 4 grade. He's the only guy in my top 10 that doesn't make it into day 1 or day 2. So, but it's just because of that size, is he's just physical. He's a bowling ball. He's going to hurt some people. And then you flip the script and you go to Datrell Jones from Boston College, 5'9", 184, but he is lightning in a bottle. Basically great playmaker in space, electric, natural pass catcher, consistently falls forward. So good contact balance, very capable as a receiver, and can get smaller than 5'9" and finish through traffic. But also, like I said, at 5'9", 184, that's a frame that's concerning to be a full-time running back. This is going to be, Fagan would be the Thunder, and Datrell Jones would be the Lightning. And Datrell Jones also brings special teams versatility, which is why my comp for him is Darren Sproles. So you're looking at a Brandon Jacobs and a Darren Sproles when you're talking Fagan and Jones.
I love it. I'll give my 10 and 9. Neither of those guys are on your list, I don't believe. So Jay Knott, true senior, transferring to Oklahoma from Cal. Really explosive his first 2 seasons for Cal. Had a down year last year. He could go much higher. He could stay where he's at or be lower, honestly. See how he does with Oklahoma. He's got natural hands, good burst. I think he's got advanced vision and patience as a runner, but he has a bit upright. And though he's explosive, Newt feels opposite, and I get it because he does hit some home run plays, but I'm not sure about his actual long speed. Like when he runs, I'm not sure what it'll be, because I see a lot of guys catching him when he's out in the open. And it's surprising because he's got great burst, but I just don't know his top end speed. And then at 9, I have Quentin Joyner. Pure projection, honestly. Transferring to Texas Tech from USC, 5'11", 216, redshirt sophomore, so may not even be in this class, but explosive playmaker, 7.6 yards per carry last season. Great burst, lateral agility, limited wear and tear because didn't have a ton of opportunities. Has to clean up the fumbles. That's why he's 9 on my list. Could be even lower, but I see the talent, see the vision. He's got the size. He's got a lot of things I like in a running back. But 2 fumbles on 63 carries cannot happen. You cannot have a fumble rate that high. So he has to improve on that. But I think he could end up a day 2 guy. Maybe this season, maybe it's next year, but I like Quentin Joyner quite a bit. Do you want to speak on either of those guys or just keep it moving with your number 8, Jonah Coleman?
Yeah, I the only thing I'll mention with Jaden Ott is the durability question mark concerns me. He played through some nagging injuries at Cal when he probably shouldn't have, and they affected him more than he thought. But I've got to see him healthy. I think that's kind of where we land with Jaden Ott is I got to see him healthy. But moving on to Jonah Coleman at Washington. So I got the verified for him as well. 5'8", 227 pounds. So this is another bowling ball of a rusher. You know, he runs like a bowling ball. When I talk about it, he can just straight down the alleyway, north and south, falling forward consistently. Ball security is elite. This is a guy at one point had 1 fumble across 400 touches. He doesn't put it on the ground. And that's what you want from a running back. If I give you the ball, don't put it on the ground, just like you talked about with Joyner. But also has a pass catching ability that's very natural. Is he can transition from receiver to runner, runner to receiver, back and forth very seamlessly. You know, he also has some good wiggle for a guy that's just a north and south type of guy. For me, Jonah Coleman, even though he's a little bit lower, and the reason he's lower is because he just doesn't have that top end gear. He's kind of like Michael Turner was in Atlanta. He was a big guy, gets north and south, has some juice, but he's not going to be a burner. And that's okay. You know, he's still in kind of the middle parts of round 3 for me, because I can take a guy that doesn't put the ball on the ground that I can use in the pass game, and I just use as a change of pace back for a smaller, speedier guy like Datrell Jones.
Yeah, and I have Coleman at 7, so we're not too far off. But he is a guy I think is solidly day 2. Is that about the same range you have him?
Yep. Yeah, I'd solidly day 2 in the latter parts of day 2 as well.
Yeah, because I mean, for that size, for that ball, can you look? You can look at the I had 5'9", but 5'8", 228, 227. He is a bowling ball, and he is very elusive for that. I know Taj Brooks went to my Bengals in the 6th. Also a guy I thought I had some wiggle and shake, and it was just a loaded class. I don't think this class is near as loaded. I think Jonah Coleman will benefit from that and have another good season for Washington. And I love the loyalty. He could have transferred. He stayed. He could have probably got a bigger bag elsewhere when you transfer. But I love that. I love how he can force missed tackles. And it just seems like a solid bet. He's a good pass protector too. A solid bet to be a guy that plays in the NFL for a long, long time. That Jonah Coleman feels like one of those running backs you take, you know what you're getting, and you're very happy with what you're getting.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's go with who's next. 2 is 9 on your list, 5 on mine, transferring to Oregon from Tulane. So tell us about Mekhi Hughes.
Yeah, so Mekhi Hughes is one of those guys that's getting a lot of love in the community. I know there's some folks that have him as running back 2. There's folks like you that have him at 5, and then me at 9. 5'11", 210 is what I've got for Hughes. Coming from Tulane to Oregon, runs with a good leverage and good power. He's going to consistently fall forward and get that extra yard. Has very good vision, can set up blocks and find cutback lanes. He'll succeed as a one cutback in the NFL where he runs counter very well. The concern for me is there's limited production of him in the passing game. So I got to see him be more productive there, which I think he will go into Oregon. I think they're going to open it up and spread it out a bit, especially with the lack of pass catchers they now have with Evan Stewart going down. In addition to that, he also relies too heavy on his power rather than his agility. So a lot of times he wants to run through people rather than using his God-given agility and get around them. But also he doesn't really have that 5th gear per se. He's got enough juice. It's not like Jonah Coleman where it's a concern. He's got enough juice, but it's not going to be a speedster style of runner. It's not going to be a guy who's going to, blow by people. If you told me he ran a 4.5 at the combine, I wouldn't be shocked. I think that's probably where we'll see him, this 4.4 to 4.5 range.
I agree. I think more 4.5, honestly. Another guy with good ball security, 0 fumbles last year. I like the contact balance. I think he's got really good burst. I don't think he has that breakaway speed, what we're talking about with 4.5. Maybe he hits 4.4s if he trains for it and hits the number, but that's not his play style, like you mentioned. I am excited to see what he does in a step up in competition, but I've got him at 5, but you having him at 9 doesn't surprise me. I know some people have him at 1, 2, and I'm just, let me see it first. Let's move on. You got Katron Allen at 6. I have him at 4. We're not too far off on him. I'll just start with a big-bodied guy. Put up a lot of production for Penn State. He's there with Nick Singleton, who I also like. He's number 2 on my list. But this is a short yardage guy. Maybe has a little bit more wiggle, but provides you hardly nothing in the passing game, and that's a concern for me and why I can't have him any. But another guy I feel like, just like with Jonah Coleman, you get him on your team. He's in the NFL for 8 to 10 years. You feel safe about his floor. So your thoughts on your number 6, Katron Allen?
Yeah, so verified on him, 5'11", 216, so a little bit lighter than what he's listed at 229, but it's not really an issue. He's still built well in his lower half, generates drive through contact, keeps the legs churning. You know, we've talked about it with some of these other guys. He just doesn't have that breakaway speed. There's not that fifth gear that allows him to threaten as a home run play, as well as him in the passing game and his pass protection ability. He's pretty much unusable in any sort of passing down. He can't pass protect very well. It needs refinement. He can't catch passes out of the backfield other than screens and swings. So that needs refinement. So if you're taking him, it's solely as a bruising runner who can get north and south in a hurry. My comp for him is Tank Bigsby, which is essentially what you're going to get, kind of that same big bruising physical style. But he also doesn't really have the size to be that 5'11", 216. It's a little smaller, a little lighter. So even though he's 6th, he is one of those guys that I think probably will start to slide down as we start to move through the season. But based on everything that he did last season as just a downhill hammer to the lightning of Nick Singleton, he's here. But if you told me he falls all the way out of my top 10, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. We'll move on to the Texas running backs. I have Trey Wisner at 6. You have CJ Baxter at 3. Baxter was a guy who was hurt last year, but I'll let you talk about him a little bit more in a second. Wisner's 6 foot 200, thinner frame, decisive running back, very good receiver as well. Had 1,000 yards, even though he's splitting reps with Jaden Blue. They honestly, this is one school, and I had the same conversation with Newt when we covered running backs. I think one of these guys will show out and be in the NFL draft and be a day 2 pick. And I think the other one will go back to Texas for another year and probably show out and be a day 2 pick.
Yep.
But your thoughts on Baxter?
Yeah, and you talked about it. 6'1", 218. So he's got a good size and a good frame. Legitimate second level speed. He's got the burst. He's got the 4th, the 5th, and a 6th gear. So he gets away from people. My concern with him is a durability conversation. That whole knee ligament issue that cost him last season. What are we going to get from him if he comes back healthy? It wouldn't shock me if he gets the bulk of the carries and we see Baxter first and then Wisner next year. It also wouldn't shock me, like you said, to see the inverse. We see Wisner this year and Baxter goes back because he also has limited sample size. There's only roughly 12 games of significant production from him.
Yeah, I think it's a coin flip on who balls out the most, and you never know. Texas running backs, they both could ball out. And but I think Arch is going to throw the ball more, is why I say one goes back and one balls out and goes to the NFL. Let's move on. We will go to Nick Singleton, who you have at 5 and I have at 2. 6'1", 226. You may have some verified measurables. But him and Katron Allen, who we mentioned, could end up 1 and 2 in Penn State history. Same recruiting class. Neither of them transferred. I respect the hell out of that so much. I just want to say that, man. Shout out to those guys for sticking around and doing that. But pass catching is going to be a calling card for him. And he's got the home run speed. Had 6.4 yards per carry last year, which was among the best in the country. But the home run ability and the pass catching is what he's going to live on. And why I put him at 2, but I can understand why people would be a little lower on him. And what are your thoughts on him, and why do you have him at 5, maybe a little lower than some of these other guys?
Yeah, so I do have verified on him, 6 foot flat, 218 pounds. So a little bit lighter than what he's listed, but I mean, he's got an exceptional burst. And this is a guy who's had documented speed on GPS at 23.6 miles an hour. He flies. He's got top end speed. He's got the size. He's physical. My concern is you see a lot of times he gets undesigned plays, undesigned runs, and he doesn't see those cutback opportunities and he misses out on them.
Yeah.
Also doesn't really have like the natural wiggle that you look for. He's not really creative in space. He just tries to use his speed, and when that doesn't work, he tries to use his power rather than try to be elusive. So that's why I'm a little bit lower on him. For me, when I look at him, I see a lot of what made Braylon Allen really good while he was at Wisconsin. So my comp for him is a hybrid between Braylon Allen and Nick Chubb in the best of both worlds. So I think I can see a world where he's challenging Jeremiah Love for running back 1 like he is on your board. And I could see a world where he's closer to 9 or 10 because of that ball carrier vision concern. And we're going to see really quick at Penn State because they're going to have to rely on him heavily with those pass catchers and those weapons they have around Drew Aller. They're going to have to lean into him pretty heavily early on.
Yeah, and the vision thing is a real concern for sure. I'm glad you brought that up. That is the biggest knock, is the vision. We will move on. Darius Taylor, you have at 4. I have at 3. We're not too far off. Minnesota running back. I have 6 foot 215. True junior, good vision, ball security, patient runner. A lot of things to like. I think he can be a 3-down back with his receiving ability. He's also pretty good in pass protection. So he's one of those guys that I just feel good having in my top 3, top 5, because I think he's got a very high floor, like I mentioned about some of these other guys. So talk to me about Darius Taylor.
Yeah, so you're right on. So the Minnesota Star, 6 foot 215 is what I've got. He's a guy north-south, hits the hole and hits it hard. Minimal time getting upfield. He's a guy that's going to get upfield in a hurry. Also a very good pass catcher. We haven't talked about it enough with these guys, but he's probably one of the better pass catchers in this class. Also, probably the best pass protector of any running back we've talked about so far. Just shows solid technique, a willingness to go after people, has no problems with it. The problem is his long speed is it's okay. It's adequate. It's enough. It's not great. It's not anything to write home about. He's going to get caught. He's going to break off some chunk plays now and again, but he's going to get caught. He just doesn't have that speed. Could also stand to add some strength on his upper body. He doesn't skip leg day. That's for certain, but could stand to add some strength in the upper body to help him with his contact balance. He's like James Conner for the Arizona Cardinals for me, which is my comp for him. A guy that's very reliable, can be a workhorse running back for an NFL team, but he's not going to be the flashy speedster type of guy. He's going to be a guy that you give 200 to 300 carries to, and you'll get a chunk play now and again, but he's going to be a 4 yards and clouds of dust type of guy.
All right, so 2 more players here, and they're on both of our list. You have Haynes at 2. I have him at 8, but transferring to Michigan from Alabama, where he kind of got behind Jam Miller a bit, but good size, a lot of good things to like there. And I think he's really going to play well at Michigan. And maybe it's a projection for you, but I don't want to speak for you. So tell us about Justice Haynes and why you have him as your running back 2 entering the season.
Yeah, so you're looking size 5'11", 210 pounds for Justice Haynes. Just decisive footwork, decisive vision, natural one-cut type of runner, good receiver with some good hands. You've seen that he can produce. In high school, you're talking about a guy that produced over 7,500 yards and 95 touchdowns in his high school career. So he was his high school's football team at that point. The concern is limited volume and the Alabama, how he got benched for Jam Miller. So that's a conversation piece. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, his route tree as a pass catcher is limited to checkdowns and screens. So you have to be concerned on if he can do that at the next level. For me, this is like Maurice Jones-Drew light because he's a very physical north-south single cut runner, but also has the juice to get away once he makes it through what I call the junk of offensive lines. But going to Michigan, he's going to, with a true freshman quarterback potentially and Bryce Underwood, he's going to have to show very quickly that he's worthy of that number 2 spot, or he could slide down the board like he is number 8 for you.
Yeah, a lot of talent there, though, and a lot to be hopeful for going to Michigan. Another guy who has the eligibility that maybe he's not until 2027, but whenever he comes out, there's a lot of talent, and I do expect him to play better at Michigan, and
Yep.
and could be closer to that on my list. Number one, I don't think it's close.
No.
Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame. I got 6 foot 226. True junior, had 1,100 yards rushing, 200 plus receiving, and that's sharing carries with Jadarian Price, Aeneas Williams. Creative in the open field, good balance and speed. I think clearly will be a 3-down back. I think he's going to have elite RAS scores winning test. He was tough during the playoffs playing through the injury, had 62 missed tackles forced, didn't record a single fumble. Clear cut, running back one for me. He's running back one on your list. Is it even close that anyone is in the conversation besides him for you, Bill?
No, it's not even close. I've got him 6 foot 214. And right now, for context, he's number 7 overall on my big board. My next running back in Haynes is number 38. So you're talking about a whole round between the two, and it's not close. I mean, he's just an explosive, excellent. He's going to test excellently with speed and acceleration, just a track star. He's CJ Spiller from Clemson all over again, with athletic ability, explosive ability, a great pass catcher. He can do it all. He's a 3-down guy. He's gonna do it all again this season. We saw it last season. If I had one issue, it's really his vision on power concepts, getting north and south. Sometimes he takes the first hole instead of kind of waiting for it to develop. He wants to hit the gas before the lights turn green. So that's probably the one big issue, but even then, that's few and far between. But yeah, it's not even close. It's the Jeremiah Love show when you talk running backs.
All right, we'll jump into wide receivers next. We're going to keep this thing rolling. We're an hour in. It's going to be a long show, boys. Buckle in. I don't know that I could do this show with anyone but Bill, the Comp King. He's killing it. Thank you, Bill. You're the man. But
Absolutely.
We'll just start, instead of reading our list off, we'll just kind of go. 10, I have Elijah Surratt. Just did a wide receiver show so people can get more of my thoughts, but 6'2", 209, outside receiver, stepped up in competition from James Madison to Indiana, and the production didn't drop from 1,100 yards to 957. Not a big drop, 8 touchdowns again. Good size, ball tracking, contested catch ability, 16 for 27, but 27 contested catch opportunities. It brings up the concerns about the separation. Pretty good moving the chains. 43 of his 53 catches went for first downs or touchdowns. Not the most explosive or athletic, not a big make-you-miss guy in the open field, but that's my wide receiver 10, Elijah Surratt, who is not on your list. A guy not on my list that is transferring to Notre Dame from Virginia, Malachi Fields. Tell me about him at your wide receiver 10.
Yeah, so Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. I know there's a lot of love for the other Notre Dame receiver and Jaden Greathouse as well, but I love Malachi Fields, 6'4", 220 pounds, just has a really good speed combination with that. He's got very good athletic ability for 6'4", 220, natural hands catcher. And this guy is also just downright nasty in contested catch scenarios. Not only does he want to moss you, he wants to moss you, then go for another rep, moss you again, and then post it to his Instagram story. He just wants to attack the ball. Just a true alpha dog mentality when he's out there on that field. But also a very good route technician, especially in intermediate parts of the field, the deep crossers and things like that. But he doesn't really have that explosive first step when you look at his game. He can get off, but it's not explosive. He doesn't really have the elite long speed that you look for either. He's Brandon Marshall, which is my comp for him. And Brandon Marshall made a great career of not having
high praise. That's high praise. He had a great career.
It is. He had a great career, and he did it without having that really super explosive first step. He had enough, and that's where I think Malachi Fields is big body receiver who wants to hurt people and have an alpha dog mentality. It's Brandon Marshall, and that's why I like him.
Yeah, he's very physical. Good shout out. A guy I am shocked was not on your list because I know you hype him up. He's on my list. He's my number 9. Chris Bell Jr., 6'2", 220, true senior, Louisville. Good size, physicality, 60% contested catch rate. Played his best ball down the stretch of the season. I think he's trending upward. Top end speed is among the best in the class. So at his size, he's an absolute burner. His strides remind me of Ted Ginn. I'm not saying he's Ted Ginn. They're not the same player. They're not the same size, but the way he runs reminds me of him. 43 catches, 737 yards, 4 touchdowns last season. I think he's got a real shot to be a day 2 player this season. I'll let you speak on Chris Bell before you get to your wide receiver 9, Denzel Boston.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head, and with your 9 and 10, they were my number 11 and 12. So they are right there on the outside looking in. I like Malachi Fields a little bit more, but you hit everything on Chris Bell, just an electric strider. I see a lot of the Ted Ginn. For me, I see Brandon LaFell when he was at LSU, just electric with the ball in his hands, electric in space, can get some speed. I would love for him at Chris Bell to work on the short route running game. A lot of his stuff, he struggles to kind of pace himself. A lot of times he's just all gas, no brakes. And in short routes like curls and drags, it gets to a point where he kind of trips over himself. So I think this season's going to be very telling for him working with Miller Moss at Louisville, who doesn't really have the biggest arm who can take advantage of his speed, and how he's going to try to kind of learn how to throttle down and handle those short and intermediate options.
Yep, he's going to get the opportunities. Your 9 is Denzel Boston. He is 6 for me. I will let you talk about him. He is a guy, even though I have it 6, I think he could be in contention for my number 1. I just want to mention that. I love the size. I love everything about this guy. First row opportunity was last season. I like Denzel Boston. Do you feel like he could be higher on your list when it's all said and done? And what do you like or dislike about Denzel Boston early in the summer scouting process?
100%. I think he can significantly fly up the board because you look at him with his size. This is a guy 6'4", 209 is what I've got. It's just a big body, but also is a natural separator. Long strider, creates separation, has very good build-up speed. That's very sneaky. He catches with his hands very consistently. My concern is that his change of direction is clunky. It's like watching the Tin Man try to turn around out there. You get him going in a straight line or in a deep cross route where he can just run straight and doesn't have to change his direction too much. He's great. But when you ask him to kind of turn and change directions and cut on a dime, it looks like he's mentally processing it. So that's something that I would want him to work on. But when you look at him, the electric stride ability, the great hands, the big body, I see a lot of T. Higgins. And I hate saying that as a Browns fan, but there's a lot of T. Higgins in Denzel Boston's game. And for additional context too, this wide receiver class is stacked. All 10 of these guys on my board are in my top 70 players. I could see a world where all 10 of them are off the board by the end of the second round.
Yeah, my number 8 is Zachariah Branch, transferring to Georgia from USC, 5'10", 175. The 175 is the big concern.
Mm-hmm.
The durability, the size. Is a guy you want to get the ball in his hands. He's a return man. He's an explosive wide receiver. Didn't have any fumbles in 2024. Really good run after the catch, but contested catch-wise, he was 2 for 10, 20%. Not good enough. And the durability is a concern. But an electric playmaker is my number 8. Your number 8, Antonio Williams, is my number 4, Clemson. Highly productive. Had an injury in 2023 that limited him to 5 games. But talk about Antonio Williams. I like him. It feels like you like him. We're probably a similar range on where we think he could go.
Yeah, so with Antonio Williams, you talked about it, 5'11", 190. Frame's a bit of a question mark when you're at that, but he plays larger than 5'11", 190. He plays like he's 6'3", 225 because he can control his body in midair, especially in middle parts of the field where he just makes some catches that he absolutely shouldn't. His release package.
Complete opposite of my, I just was going to say, complete opposite of my 8, which is Zachariah Branch. He does the things at his size, that Branch doesn't do.
100%. Yeah, he does everything that you would want a smaller receiver to be able to do. He also can just get off the line quick. Like it's like lightning in a bottle. He's off the line and the cornerback's still looking for him to try to stop him. He finds a soft spot against zone very easily. My concerns with him, you already hit on him. It's the frame at 5'11", 190 and the durability. Can he stay healthy for a full NFL season? I see a lot of Christian Kirk in his game. I really do. And a more impactful Christian Kirk, especially releasing off the line. This is a guy I could see if he came out and you told me he was in round 1, I could see it with all the tools and traits he's got.
Yeah, he could have a Matthew Golden type of season, who's also not the biggest guy, and get himself in that round one conversation, because he had a pretty damn good season last year.
Yep.
Just need to make sure he stays healthy. My number 7, Aaron Anderson, not on your list, but 5'8", 188, redshirt junior, returner, wide receiver, excellent speed, good route runner, 884 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. Can play on the outside, but that's not what he's going to be. He's going to be a slot-only guy. He plays mostly in the slot for LSU, and that will continue this year. I think he plays a lot bigger than his size, kind of like Williams does, and certainly unlike Branch. At 5'8", he plays much bigger. He will fight for catches. He's tough over the middle. I really like Aaron Anderson. 2 years eligibility left with a big season, I think, this year. He's a top 75 talent for me. I like Aaron Anderson. Not on your list, so I'm going to ask you before you jump into J. Michael Sturdivant. Have you watched Aaron Anderson?
Yes. So how I said Bell and Surratt were 11 and 12, Anderson was 13. So just barely missing the list. So if I did them all, I have 60 wide receivers on my board with draftable grades. So we would have been here.
I've got 45 or something. Yeah.
It's a deep class, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head with Anderson. He's very talented, and I'm excited to see him with Nussmeier. But jumping into my next guy, J. Michael Sturdivant, formerly of UCLA, now he's going down to Florida to play with DJ Lagway. 6'3", 205, an athletic freak. At 6'3", 205, he's ran 23 miles an hour on GPS, bench press close to 300 pounds, squatted almost 400 pounds, made the Feldman freak list in 2023. So he's an athletic freak. He's a long strider that eats up cushion quickly. He can get up, go, and gone. Also has very good ability to box defenders out and be very effective in contested catch situations. The problem is his hands are just inconsistent. He drops a lot of passes that he should catch, and most of them he's trying to get it into his body. Route tree is still a little underdeveloped. Like to see a little bit more crispness in breaking and out breaking routes. But for me, I see a lot of Christian Watson in his game, who ended up in Green Bay in the second round. And if you told me that's where Sturdivant's career path ends up, no argument for me.
Yeah. My 6, you already talked about. He was your number 9, Denzel Boston. The size, the contested catch ability is pretty good. Ball tracking, all the things I like in a wide receiver. So I will move on. Your 6 is my 2. So I will speak on Carnell Tate first, since he's my 2, and then let you. 6'3", 191, reliable hands, only a 5.5% drop rate, good blocker, produced 700 yards. He was the third option behind Egbuka, behind Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith will be back this year, but Carnell Tate is a big option in that offense this year. I expect him to have a big season. I'm still not sure about Julian Sayin as a quarterback, and I'm saying that as a Buckeye fan. He's a redshirt freshman. I don't know what he'll be or what he'll do. Maybe the numbers are down for all these guys, but they're so talented. You find ways to get the ball in their hands. 60% contested catch rate, a bit of a thin frame. He doesn't force a lot of missed tackles. He's lined up almost exclusively on the outside. Not sure about the top end speed, but just a good, solid, reliable option that you could count on as a good, solid wide receiver 2 in the NFL. That's where I picture him at. And maybe why you have him at 6, because you don't see the potential to be a wide receiver 1. Is that accurate? And talk about Carnell Tate.
100%. That's the accuracy. Is I don't necessarily see him as a wide receiver 1, because it's 6'3", 191, but it's a slender 191. So I have concerns about his ability to stay healthy, taking those hits consistently. Run blocking effort is there for him, but it's just very inconsistent. Sometimes he wants to do it, sometimes he doesn't. And in the NFL, you've got to block to get the rock. And if you have that effort, you're not going to see those kind of passes. He also just kind of drifts and loafs about when he's not the primary read in a pass catching offense. And you see it when they start to go more towards Jeremiah Smith. You see his routes just kind of get a little lackluster. It should be a little crisper and run full speed, and you don't really see that. But for me, he looks a lot like Chris Godwin, and I see a lot of Chris Godwin who could be a wide receiver 1, but it's probably a 2. And for what it's worth, even though he's number 6 on my board, He's number 22 overall on my big board. So this is a guy, if you told me
Oh,
he went first round, I can see it, but I would lean more towards probably the end of the first, beginning of the second, because of that run blocking concern, because of the route running. I won't say it's an effort, but it's something that's popped up on tape. And I know NFL teams, when they see that, they're going to ask him about it. He's going to have to defend it. And there's not going to be a whole lot of ways you can really defend it.
we are not far off in our thoughts on the player. And that's, I will say for me, I know you've got, 5 more guys here to on your list, but even my one, I am not sold on this class as a whole at wide receiver. So there's a lot of guys that I'm like, I don't think there's like a clear cut wide receiver one. So a lot of guys, I do view them as good, solid wide receiver twos. He almost feels the safest for me, and that's why I have him as my second receiver on this list as a high end 2, where some of these guys, whether they got a little more concerns for me, but there's players we like, and we'll continue to talk about them. And next on the list is my 5 and your 3. So we'll talk about these two together. Mm-hmm. Eric Singleton Jr., 5'11", 190, true junior, transferring to Auburn from Georgia Tech, 700 both of his first 2 seasons, so very consistent in that. Plays bigger than his listed size, great speed, alignment versatile, downfield weapon, pretty reliable hands, good yak ability, take screens and reverses to the house, but he's got to expand his route ability to beat press man coverage is my thoughts on Singleton. I'll let you talk about Singleton, who you have at 3, and then I'll let you continue with your 5, which is Jacoby Lane from USC.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head with Singleton, just a true burner, 5'11", 190. If he ran a sub 4.3, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Just legitimate speed, natural hands catcher, can get balls without breaking stride with ease. Also shows very good toughness working over the middle of the field. Even though he's 5'11", 190, he has a willingness to want to go over the middle of the field. He also does need to work on his play strength, and that's because he's 190 pounds soaking wet out of the pool, because he gets pushed off the line pretty frequently. Granted, he can get right back on because of that speed, but I mean, he's my wide receiver 3. He's a faster version of Santana Moss is what I have written down for Eric Singleton. And honestly, if you told me that he went in top 15, I wouldn't be shocked either, because one of the things you can't teach is speed and a willingness to go over the middle of the field as a wide receiver. He's got both by the bucket. Now, we've talked about a lot of guys that have had question marks around their frame, being on the smaller side. We get to Jacoby Lane, and that's not the case for him. Big body receiver, 6'4", 195, so he is a little bit lean. But I mean, when I watch Jacoby Lane, I see a lot of Sidney Rice, just a guy who has the physical ability to get up and down the field, also has the decent speed to get up and down the field, and very good hands. He is, my top 5 are all graded as first round talents. He is on that fringe of that first round talent per se. He's my number 18th overall player. So I could see a world where he goes in the middle part of the first round. I could see a world where he falls to the late part of the first round. But at 6'4", 191, with the athletic ability that he has and the pass catching ability that he has, you can't teach those types of things. And he's electric. And I know some folks like Makai Lemon, his counterpart, a little bit more, but he's got all the tools that Makai has, but also is 6'4".
Yeah, he definitely has the size over Lemon. I actually have him as a 2027 guy, but it's a guy that I'm watching to see if he takes that next step in production and everything at USC, because he's a guy who could easily end up in my top 5 for sure. I definitely think he has all the traits. And it'll jump right into my number 3. We already talked about my 4 and Antonio Williams. So my number 3 is Nick Anderson. Missed all of last season, but 6'4", 219. I loved his 2023 tape. Had almost 800 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's got a good catch radius. The contested catch ability is not as good as it should be for a guy his size, which is a bit of a red flag, and why it's kind of like, how does he do at LSU after transferring? But I love the 21 yards per catch in 2023, and I think playing with Nussmeier, plenty of opportunity to show his skill set. And he has sneakily gained some yards after catch. It's more with physicality than it is by being elusive, but he has a little bit of shake to him for a guy that size, and that's what I ask for. But he's got to show he can stay healthy, and even though he's at 219, he does look a bit thin. So that's my thoughts on Nick Anderson. Where do we want to go? Let's go to your number 2, because speaking of traits, holy shit, you talk about a guy with traits. Nick Harbor from South Carolina.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny, we talked about the South Carolina quarterback who has all the traits. Now we go to their wide receiver who has all the traits. Nick Harbor, 6'5", 235. This is a guy, if he runs a 4.29 at the combine, nobody's blinking because he's just that fast. But he's a freak. He's 6'5" and can run a sub 4.3. But he also, after the catch, he runs like a freight train. He wants to hit people, which is a pro and a minus. Sometimes you want your wide receiver to avoid people, but he seeks out contact. Deep ball tracking is very good. It improved on the latter half of last season, and I look for it to continue to improve. The problem is his production doesn't match the athletic tools and traits. I've got all of these tools and traits. I'm big, I'm fast, I'm strong. I should see production. You're outspeeding, you're outpowering guys, and you don't see that. In addition to that, there are also some concentration drops on his tape where he just loses focus. And it's partially because he thinks, hey, I'm 6'5" and I'm going to take off, but he just loses focus on it. But I mean, this guy's a straight unicorn. I have him comped to Alshon Jeffrey, and I don't even think that does it justice because he's faster than Alshon Jeffrey was.
Yeah, a lot. But he has
more
to put
explosive.
It together. Yeah, he has to put it together. But to be fair to him, he played a lot of tight end, I believe, in high school and a lot of edge.
Yeah.
So he's still kind of learning the position of wide receiver, which is why you probably have him so high, is like the physical traits, the freak ability, plus now you're entering your 3rd season as trying to be a wide receiver. This should be the year.
Yep. 100%. Right. It's traits all day with him.
Absolutely. And that's why I can see it, Jordan Tyson, 6'1", 195. Ball tracking, contested catchability, he was 10 for 15, 66.7%. He's my 1, year 4. Alignment versatile. He missed the playoffs with an injury, which sucks. He's got to stay healthy, clean up some fumbles and some drops. But I love his body control, ball tracking, the production, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 3.04 yards per route ran. And that usually translates really well to the NFL. So those are reasons that I have Tyson at 1 in a class that I just feel like a lot of number 2s. I think maybe he could be a 1, but also another guy that at worst, I feel like I'm getting a high end wide receiver too, even though I have him as my number 1 overall for this class. That's kind of where I'm at with this class. So your thoughts on Tyson at 4, and then also your number 1, Kevin Concepcion, who's my number 11. I do like a lot with him. So
yeah.
It'll be fun conversation here with these two.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with Jordan Tyson. Very productive. Tyson's probably the 2nd best route runner of any wide receiver in this class, which is hinting towards my number 1. But I mean, you look at him, he's got the size, he's got the ability to produce, he's got the ability to run routes. My concern with him is his medical. The knee injury in 2022, the collarbone injury in 2024. I need to see a full season of him healthy. If he stays healthy this season, he could certainly be number 1 on my list. He could certainly be number 1 on a lot of people's list, but he's got to be able to stay healthy as a wide receiver. My number 1, Kevin Concepcion, 5'11", 187, so a bit on the smaller side, but is pound for pound the best route runner of any wide receiver in this class. And I'm going to get into hot take territory of last year's class. He is a route artiste, being able to get in and out of breaks easily, head fakes, moving defenders off of their spot. Just also is an absolute nightmare to try to tackle after the catch. It's like trying to staple Jell-O to a tree when you're trying to get your hands on Concepcion. Also does have a very good ability of elevating his play in large games when the lights are on bright. You watched the Clemson game and the Virginia game. He when the lights were on bright, he played his best, but his biggest issue is that frame. 5'11", 187. is that going to put him inside of the slot at the next level? I think he has the ability to stay on the boundary. It's whether he can stay healthy on the boundary. This is Santonio Holmes 2.0 when I look at Concepcion. And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. There's a lot of wide receivers in this class that have the ability to be high-end wide receiver 2, maybe a low-end wide receiver 1, like Concepcion, like Tyson, like Harbor even. So while there's a lot of talent there, I have those top 5 guys as first-round grades on my board because I think they all have something to bring to the table that they can move up and be a wide receiver 1. But right now they're all high-end wide receiver 2s.
And having a really good wide receiver 2, not a bad thing as a Bengal fan.
No.
I will say that. Because
Not at all.
technically, Higgins is a 2. And I know he went top pick of the second round, but he should have been a first-round pick all day long. Concepcion, yeah. One of the things I had for him, even though he was my 11, one of the smoothest separators in the class, and you touched on that. Just he is good at getting open, and that's a skill you can't teach, and that is very important for a wide receiver. We'll move it on to tight ends. One of the biggest varying positions, I feel like, for everybody in the draft community is tight ends. So I'll start with my number 10. It's Jack Velling, who is Jack on your list? He's not on your list?
Jack is not on my list. He
man.
is
Christ.
Yeah, he is in day 3 right now. I see the vision with him. For me, I see a lot of like Isaiah Likely light for Jack Velling. But there's some consistency concerns that I want to see him improve on.
I think that's 100% fair. I've got him as 6'5", 246. He's my tight end 10 for Michigan State. Oregon State in 2023 had 8 touchdowns. So speaking of consistency, down to 1 touchdown last year for Michigan State. I do think Aiden Childs playing better. He'll have more consistent production. Want to see, but his production overall was still career highs with 36 catches, 411 yards. Good route runner, can run after the catch, tough and reliable over the middle, stretches the seam, reliable hands. He's got to improve as a run blocker, and consistency overall has to improve. So, but that's my 10. Your 10 is a guy not on my list, and that's Addison Ostrenga. And if I'm not wrong, I believe he's the Iowa guy, which it's always safe to put one of them on your list.
Yes, that is 100% correct. So he's an Iowa tight end through and through, well coached, polished blocker, a high football IQ when you look at Ostrenga. Very good as an inline blocker, very sure-handed, especially in short and intermediate routes. But he's average as an athlete, and that's kind of being polite. He's not going to stretch the field. He's not going to get north and south. His route running is just kind of there. It's not sharp. It's not crisp. There's not very good breaks. For me, I see a lot of kind of Anthony Fasano in his game. And for what it's worth, I'm not in love with this tight end class this year. Of my 10, 5 of them, so that would be Koziel, Gillenborg, Sadiq, Lechner, and Ostrenga, are day 3 prospects for me. And so part of that is they have something that they need to work on, or they have some form of deficiency. Part of that is they're just not going to really be that guy. And Ostrenga at 6'4", 250, he doesn't really play like he's 250. He plays kind of, I won't say scared, but like I see a 6'4", 250 guy. So you should see someone more physical in his route running. And I don't see it. I see it inline blocking, but I don't see it route running, which is concerning.
I think we're on the same page with the class as a whole. And why I have a guy like Sadiq at number 1 is because I don't fully believe in any of these guys through summer scouting. Like there is a lot to be desired with the entire class of tight ends. Sadiq just happens to be one of the more athletic guys and is a willing blocker for me, but I'll touch on him a little more later. My 9 is Luke Haas, who is transferring to Ole Miss, 6'3", 241, good route runner, doesn't have a drop in his career. So it's like one of those things where like I feel good that you could get him the ball as a move tight end more than anything else. A bit limited as an inline blocker due to his size. And he's had some issues with ball security when he's running, a lot of fumbles. So Luke Halls is my 9, but I know some people have this guy as their tight end 1, and he's not in your top 10. It just speaks to this class as a whole. If you want to mention anything about Luke Halls, that's fine. but also then move to your number 9, which is Trey Lechner, another guy not on my list. It is all over the place, and we're just being honest with you of why.
Yep, and 100%. And Luke Haas barely misses the cut for me at tight end 12. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This is a class that's going to have names that are all over the board. But I mean, Trey Lechner, you look at him, 6'3". He's listed from what I've seen and heard at 227. I've also heard 247. So I'm going to need it confirmed. Yeah, going to need a big difference there. Going to need something more confirmed, because if he is truly at 227, it's a conversation of maybe he needs to slide outside to wide receiver, because he's a very good pass catcher. Absolutely. Probably one of the better pass catchers of this class. Good feet, good body control, but he is just an absolute non-factor in terms of inline blocking because of his size. And he's also really a non-factor with tracking the ball deep, just because he gets in his head a little bit and it just falls to the ground. And it's not really a concentration concern. It's a, hey, I'm very fast. I'm very quick. I'm going to get by you. Okay, I'm going to track the ball over my shoulder, and then it just falls to the ground. And like I said, he's a day 3 guy for me because, he doesn't get any push in the run game. He's not really trustable in the deep passing game. So you're looking at a tight end who's really effective in the short to intermediate route. That's a day 3 guy. That's a Jordan Akins, which is my comp for Lechner. It's a Jordan Akins type of receiver and type of tight end.
Yeah, and I'm also in day 3 territory with this 10 through 8 for me. And my 8 is Justin Jolly from North Carolina State, 6'4", 235. So you're talking undersized all day long. Originally at UConn for 2 years. Good contested catch guy, 11 for 13 last year. Quality route runner, alignment versatile. Has to improve his blocking technique. Could add some bulk to that frame. He's a fun prospect, but at that size, you're like, how much is he an actual tight end? How far is he going to fall? How much will you love him no matter how good he is as a wide receiver? It's a tough spot because they can't all be Mike Gesicki's. You got to be elite of the elite to not be a blocker at all and still be like a first, second round type guy. 100%. We'll talk about your 8, Kenyon Sadiq. It's my number 1. But it goes to the chaos of the class. So I guess I'll talk about him first. Good athlete, elusive after the catch, solid production, even though he was behind Ferguson last year. 6'3", 245 is what he is listed as. But I put a question mark of, is he closer to 6'2", 230? Because that size is a huge concern. He's decent as a blocker, even though he is a little undersized. Very reliable pass catcher, only a 3.8% drop rate. I'm sure I have questions about him. I like the upside, but you have him at 8. So why is he at 8 for you?
Yeah. So with Sadiq, I also have that question mark. He's listed 6'3", 245, but if you told me 6'2", 225, I'm not fighting that. And when you're a tight end and you look that light, now it becomes a conversation of maybe I slide out to wide receiver, which if you have him move out to wide receiver, this is a guy that's probably going to run a 4.5, probably a 4.55, maybe a 4.6, which is how athletic he is, which that looks great.
He's going to need to.
Yeah, he is. And that looks great as a tight end, but as a wide receiver, it's not that great for a 6'2" guy. And that's exactly the concern is he's got natural hands, but he's undersized. His run blocking is inconsistent. In addition to that, I need him to focus on his zone coverage route running, because there's a lot of times where he just sits in a window and just sits there and waits for it rather than playing the scramble drill and searches for open grass for someone to find him. So he's a hell of an athlete, but he's a hell of an athlete if he's 245 pounds. If he's 6'2", 225, it's not all of that kind of goes out the window.
The guy I have at 14, you have at 7, is John Michael Gillenborg. Talking about athletes, this is an athletic pass catcher, moves like a wide receiver. Tell us more about your number 7, John Michael Gillenborg.
Yeah, so verified 6'5", 251 pounds is what I've got for Gillenborg.
It's unreal for the way he moves.
It's unreal for the way he moves. Just a strong run blocker, moves people out of the way, an absolute athlete, good in contested catch situations. My concerns is his footwork and his route refinement. A lot of times when he's bursting out of his stance, he almost trips over himself. So he trips himself before he even gets started. I see a lot of Kobe Fleener when he was at Stanford with Andrew Luck with him. Big guy, very athletic, great inline blocker, could put him as a tight end or a fullback and make him an offensive weapon. But he struggles to get out of the gate. Once he's out of the gate and he's able to use that size and athletic ability, he looks like a star, but he just struggles getting out of the gate. And I need to see that development. Plus, he is also playing at Wyoming, so you have a level of competition conversation with Gillenborg.
I'm shocked he's 251. He looks so much smaller. That's why I had moves like a wide receiver. Like him being at that size is actually huge. If you said it's verified, so holy shit. That makes me look at him a little differently, honestly.
Yeah.
Because the way he moves is special. My number 7 is Joe Royer. I have 6'5", 255. Breakout season with Cincinnati last year. Transferred from Ohio State where he really didn't play. Didn't have any drops last year. He's got the size. He's a plus route runner. He still lacks some experience, so I think it's good he came back. And I think he could improve as a run blocker. I know he is your number 2, so I'll let you speak on him. And then I'll let you get your number 6 directly after, which is Tanner Koziel, who I'm not sure where he's at.
Yeah.
He's bounced around.
He's all over the place. He's officially at Houston finally. So we have that. But Joe Royer from Cincinnati, you look at him, 6'5", 6'4", 252 is what I have verified. So still got very good size. Good body control. He adjusts to poorly thrown balls very easily. Can find the soft spot in zone coverage, like we talked about with Sadiq. He still keeps plays alive and continues to move through them. Shows a very good ability to run after the catch. He's like a freight train. He runs angry with it. Also has very good hands, but he's also still developing as a blocker. He's very inconsistent. His hand placement ends up in a lot of spots where it's going to be holding at the NFL level. Not effective at the point of attack. Also, I'd like to see him stay healthy consistently. He hasn't had any major health issues where it's knocked him out for an entire season, but there's a lot of nicks and dings and cuts and bruises that are going to add up over the course of an NFL season. I see a lot of Cole Kmet when I'm watching Joe Royer, and he's my tight end too, but he also on my top 100 right now is number 33. So if you told me he was a first round prospect, I could see it. If you told me he was a day 2 guy, I could see it. That's just a variance of this class that we've talked about. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're in the day 2 range for me, even with him at 7. I'm like that late 3rd round for Royer is kind of where I have him, even at 7, because it's such a high variance class. But a lot of tight ends get taken in that 2nd, especially that 3rd, 4th round. But 3rd round type area, I could see Royer, even though I have him at 7.
Yeah, 100%. And Tanner Koziel, like you mentioned, formerly of Ball State, then went to Wisconsin for a cup of coffee, and then left Wisconsin. Now he's at Houston. By all accounts, is finally landing in Houston. His weight's kind of all over the place. I've seen 230, I've seen 240, I've seen 250. So that's the question I'm going to have. I had it with everyone else, but 6'7" has been pretty consistent across the board. And you see it. He's got a frame that works for red zone mismatches very well in terms of that height and being able to be in those jump ball scenarios. Has very good ball skills. Solid as a run blocker. Isn't anything to write home about because his consistency. There's some where he looks like a all pro blocker, and then there's some where he looks no better than a folding chair in terms of his effort. And part of that is because when he was at Ball State, me living 20 minutes from Ball State's campus, I watched a lot of his game. They run a very run-heavy RPO-based scheme. So at a certain point, he just didn't really have to do that much pass protection. It was mostly run blocking. And at some point, when you're running the ball 400, 500 times a season, you get burnt out on it. So it's not an every snap thing, but it is a conversation that you're going to have. I think him landing in Houston is probably going to be good for him because with his quarterback and Connor Weigman, they're going to have to work together to both rehab their NFL draft stock. But yeah, he's my number 6 guy. But if you told me he was an undrafted free agent, it wouldn't shock me. If you told me he was a day 2 guy, wouldn't shock me. Another high variance guy.
Yeah, he definitely is. Eli Stowers, I don't think is as high variance. I have him at 6. You have him at 5. A lot of people, this is their tight end 1. He's 6'4", 235. Maybe you have different measurements that are official, but that's just what I have. I thought he could have been a day 2 pick if he came out, but he decided to return to Vanderbilt for another season. I think he's that classic move tight end that you want to get the ball in his hands. He's a good weapon. He can force missed tackles after the catch. He might have been a former quarterback or something in high school. I can't remember exactly. But your thoughts on Eli Stowers, who's your 5, my 6. That's just kind of my feelings. I can't put him at 1 yet, but I could see him up there. It's more the size. It's more the traditional tight end type thing. But if he puts up a huge season, I can see why he might be tight end 1.
100%. And I've got 6'4", 231. So 231, 235. Either way, that's still light for a tight end.
Especially if you're 6'4".
Yeah, especially if you're 6'4". And when you look at him too, he also is probably going to run in that same range that we talked about with Sadiq, like a 4 or 5 guy, which is nice as a tight end, but it's not nice when you're 6'4", 230. He's a former quarterback. You hit the nail on the head. So he's still learning the nuances of the tight end position. But man, at what point do we say you've got to add mass to your frame without taking away what makes you special? And I think that's the conversation we have to have with guys like Stowers and Sadiq and Koziel. Is they're these classic move style tight ends, but we need inline blocking, and we can't really have them inline block because they just don't have the mass to add to their frame, which is the concern that I have with Stowers, especially in run blocking, because he just gets overwhelmed by edge rushers that are 50 plus, 60 plus pounds, and they blow right through him like a folding chair.
Yeah. I mean, I think we see it very similar with him. Jack Endries is a guy who actually excites me. If I thought someone 5th on my list, 4th on yours, someone that could really blow up and be tight end 1, he's not a blocker either, but at least he's 6'4", 240. And that matters because sometimes you got to pretend you're going to block as a tight end. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to look that way if someone's 6'2", 230. And maybe that'll be sneaky and surprise people. But former walk-on at Cal, transferring to Texas, steady producer for 2 seasons. I expect him to have another big season with Arch at quarterback. Good athlete, knows how to find the soft spot against zone coverage. 350 yards after the catch this past season. The game versus Pitt, he had 8 catches, 119 yards. He's not going to give much as a blocker. I don't think the upside's there as a blocker, but at least he has good size. Your thoughts on Jack Endries, your number 4, my number 5.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head here with Jack. A very good route runner. I've got 6'4", 240 as the verified. So that's good enough. I would love for him to add more, but at 6'4", he's kind of max. There's not going to be much that you can add, which is probably one of the biggest knocks is you can't really add much for him. Run blocking is significant concern. There's poor technique. There's inconsistent power. He just can't get people moving, but he is a hell of a pass catcher. Very good field awareness, finds that open zone, also very good production when the lights are on bright, which they weren't on bright too often for Cal because they were that rough. But when they
will
were
be
on,
this year,
100%, he will be the. If you told me he was this year's Gunnar Helm, a guy that was consistent game in and game out, I can see it. I see a lot of Austin Hooper in his game, a guy that is very consistent. He's not going to be that true tight end 1 option. Could be a low end tight end 1 if you asked him to, but is a tight end 2, a move tight end, a weapon that will make Arch's life easier when it's 3rd and 4 and you need a 5-yard completion. Jack Endries is going to be the guy that gets the ball.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I have 2 Georgia guys, so I'll touch on both of them still in my top 5. It's Oscar Delp at 4, 6'5", 245, senior. Didn't take the step many expected after Brock Bowers went to the NFL. Good athlete, alignment versatile, reliable hands, career 3.8% drop rate. He can run after the catch. but he's got to improve in contested catch opportunities. 12.5% for his career. That's abysmal for a guy that's 6'5" at tight end. Has some ball security issues, and he's got to get better as a blocker. I can understand why he's not in your top 10. I think I'm still holding on to what we thought he could be prior to last season. And then I have Lawson Lucky at number 2, 6'4", 240, solid season, strong hands, 0 drops, good route runner, very tough and dependable over the middle. Another guy, these Georgia guys, but I know Carson Beck, so I should go back and chart these probably more than PFF. He was 0 for 7 on contested catch situations, but Carson Beck sucked ass. Let's just be honest. Yeah. He sucked ass last year. He wasn't in our top 10 for quarterbacks for a reason. But that's an area of improvement. You at least want to see him chart some of those, have some of those, and I think he could block better at the point of attack. Do you have anything on the Georgia guys before we jump into Max Clare, who's number 3 for both of us? A rare number 3 for both of us.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head with Delp and Lucky. They're both guys that, yes, Carson Beck was a dumpster fire, and that's being polite with his ball placement, but there's both inconsistencies on their tape that they'll need to correct in a hurry, especially with Gunnar Stockton, the young quarterback coming into Georgia. The one thing that helps a quarterback better than anything is a consistent tight end. And if you have 2 inconsistent tight ends, that's not going to be a good look for Gunnar this season.
I thought Lucky was better, and that's why I have him at 2. Like, I liked his tape better. He surprised me. I didn't expect him to be in my top 10. I watched him. I was like, you know what? I really like this kid. And in a class that I don't have anybody, I put him at 2 because I think the ceiling is still high. And Delp, honestly, I feel like Delp could be outside this top 10 pretty easily.
Yep.
But Lucky, I still have hopes for.
Yeah,
all right,
and
Max,
I've got day 3 grades on both. I've got day 3 grades on both of them, so it wouldn't shock me if they make their way into the top 10, and it wouldn't shock me if we're talking 2 undrafted players.
Well, Lucky has more years of eligibility, so he's a guy who, at worst, I think I felt better about putting him on the list that high because at worst he's back in 2027, and I think he'll be high up on the list from what he showed last year. Max Clare, 6'4", 240 from Purdue. Talk about production. 51 catches, 685 yards, 4 touchdowns, seam stretcher, alignment versatile, run after catch ability, athletic, good body control. Did have 5 drops last year. Has to continue improving as a blocker, which Ohio State, you typically have to do that. So he's going to be asked to do that quite a bit. Contested catch numbers. He was 5 for 11, which isn't awful, but it could be better. So he is both of our number 3s. What are your thoughts on Max Clare before we get to year 1, which will finish out tight ends? Then we'll be moving on to offensive line.
Yeah, so Max Clare, you talked about it. It's got the size a little bit. 6'4", 245 is what I've got. I've heard 240, but there's room to kind of grow with that. He's a middle field nightmare. This is a guy, the 5 to 7 yard marker is just going to be a nightmare, especially for Sayin. Also, you see his basketball background. He high points the ball like he's going up for a rebound and can easily come down with it. My biggest concern, you mentioned it, the blocking technique is a work in progress, as well as there are questions about his medical history, the ankle injury in 2023 that took a lot of time. And then when he returned, he still didn't look right from it. So it didn't pop up too much, but it is a question mark when you have an ankle injury, especially in the blocking, especially in the athletic ability. So I want to see him be healthy, be consistent, and he's got to learn how to block quickly or he's not going to see the field at Ohio State. And that's the concerning part.
Yeah.
So
a guy, highly productive, good pass catcher, and could have a big season, or could be a guy who still has eligibility that goes back for another season. That wouldn't be surprising at all. That's part of this class too. A lot of these guys do still have some eligibility. Sadiq, Lucky, Clare. My top 3 all still have eligibility. Injuries has another year if he wants it. So 4 of my top 5 guys have eligibility if they want it. And your number 1 also has some eligibility if he wants it, and that's Brett Norfleet from Missouri. Why are this is 100% projection, Bill. I don't even think I have to ask. The production hasn't been there, but it's hard to find guys that are 6'7" and possesses the athleticism he has at that size.
Bingo. It's 6'7". I've seen the weight vary from between 240 and 260. So if you split the difference and say 6'7", 250 pounds, and moves in the way that he does, you can't find that. You just can't. It's ultimately a projection because I see the hands, I see soft hands, I see reliability. I see a good route running ability as well. But he's also very lanky for 6'7", which makes me think he's closer to 240 than 260. Doesn't really have
Yeah, I
deep
would
speed and
agree.
acceleration. So he's not going to threaten the defense over the top. But man, the way he moves at that size, like you could tell me he's Dallas Goddard, and I would say round one, take him. And I have a round one grade on him. It's a projection grade because I think if he continues to develop on the development swing that he's on, he's going to be a nightmare. He's going to be a problem for someone in the league. More than likely going to be next year. I don't see him coming out this year unless he just lights it up at Missouri.
Right. But I love these lists, Bill. That's one thing. Like when you sent me this and I made these graphics, I was like, Bill's taking some swings here. And I like this because I feel like for me personally, I am more safe for the most part. Now, tight ends, I still put Sadiq up there, but that's a guy who had 300 and some yards behind Terrence Ferguson, knowing that he's probably going to get the Norfleet, though. I like him. But to put him number one, I'm like, I like how Bill will take these swings on some. You had Nick Harbor with the wide receivers as your second wide receiver. Like, I like that, and I respect it, and it gets more names out there, and it makes it fun for the summer scouting. So I do like that. We will move on to O-line. Now, this one we condensed to O-line in general. Thank God, because we're 2 hours in, and we still haven't moved to defense. So we have tackles, guards, and centers all on this list. So let's just start with your number 10. He's a guard, Chase Basantis from Texas A&M. Tell us about Basantis. He's a guy who's, I don't even know where I have him on my guard list. I think hold on, let me get to my guard list here. He's 5 on my guard list. So he's a top 5 guard for me, but he's not a top 10 O-line. But there's a lot like with Basantis.
Exactly. And the size is the first thing, 6'6", 320. So you don't have a concern of him playing inside, being too light, things like that. He is probably one of the better run blockers at the guard position in this class because he just attacks people with violent hand placement. Very physical, finishing through the whistle. Also, can anchor against stronger rushes and maintain leverage. The problem is he gets out over his skis too consistently, and he loses a lot of leverage and pass protection. And a lot of my guys that I'm going to talk about in this list do that exact same thing, is they get too far out in front of them and lunge and lose a lot of leverage. For him, also, his hand placement is very inconsistent pass protection. A lot of the stuff he gets away with is going to be called at the next level. For me, I see a lot of Jonah Jackson in his game. And if you told me I could get a guy like that in day 2 range, which is where I have Basantis, I'm happy. I'm taking that all day. So I want to see him get more consistent in pass protection. But if you took him solely as a run blocking guard to open up holes for you, you're going to get no arguments from me.
This list being O-line in general and top 10 for O-line for 3 positions, I would agree that it is day 2 guys and day 1 as we climb up the list, like first rounders or first round potential for us. So my number 10 is Brailsford. If a center is going to sneak into the first round, I think it's him. And I know the size is concerning, but I have him listed at 6'2", 290. I know when he was at Washington, it was like 270, and it's like, holy shit, how's this guy going to play in the NFL? Hopefully he is up to that 290. Who knows when it's official, it's going to be one to watch, or if he has official measurements, even though he's not on his list, he can let me know. Do you, Bill? Do you have anything for Brailsford?
Let me check.
All right, I'll continue to talk about him while you're looking. Elite athleticism, entering his 3rd season as a starter, 2nd with Alabama, didn't allow a sack, only 7 pressures. Moving into the SEC last year with Alabama, 7 pressures. high football IQ, quick off the snap, blocks well on the move. The size is the biggest question mark, and he isn't the most physical as a run blocker. So that's my thoughts with him. Did you find any official measurements for him?
Yeah, I have 6'2", 288. So short of the 300-pound threshold you want, but he could easily add 10 to 12 pounds and get to that 300-pound marker. But yeah, I've got 288.
Well, and at one point he was listed at 270, which was a huge concern. But he's a true freshman at Washington who played in the national title game that season with Penix as his quarterback. There's a lot I like about Brailsford. He's not on your top 10 list. Any thoughts on Brailsford? And we both have number 9, Caden Green, a guard for Missouri.
Yeah, and with Brailsford, it partially stems from him playing center. So on my big board, centers get a hit because of positional value. Because on average, over the last 5 years, there's been 5 centers drafted in each class. So you're talking 5 guys out of 260. So for that, and in addition, Brailsford's got question marks around his medical history. I want to see him healthy this season. If you told me he's my center 4, but if you told me he was going in the first round as someone's center 1, it wouldn't shock me whatsoever.
And there's guys like Jake Slaughter, who's my 2 that could easily be my 1. I believe, is he your 1 at center?
Yeah. Slaughter is my 1 at center.
Yeah. So just to touch on center, that's kind of the centers. Now, everyone else on this list is guard or tackle. At number 9 is Caden Green, who maybe could play tackle, but he's a guard to me.
Yep. He is for me as well. He's got the size and length to play tackle, but he's going to be a guard at the next level just because he's very good in pass protection, very good anchor, can hold his own in pass protection, but also is a very fluid mover. When you get him moving in space to the next level, he can get there, climb effectively, and take out a linebacker. My concern is, again, and I'm going to say it 9 more times. He lunges too often in pass protection and gets too far out in front of his skis. And I think that's the concern. That and hand usage is just all over the board. Another one of these guards that can't be consistent in where they place their hands. It's going to lead to holding calls at the next level. But he's my top guard. And I see a lot of Laken Tomlinson in Caden Green's game, and I would be perfectly fine with taking that in the middle parts of round 2, which is where I have my number 9 in Caden Green.
He is my second rated guard, so I'll talk about my first since you just talked about Green to keep this moving. Armaj Reed Williams is my guard 1, and I have gone back and forth. Originally, I had Green above him. I think he's more patient pass blocker. I think he's got a higher upside just now turning 21 in November coming up. Whereas Reed Adams is an older guy. I think this is his 6th season, 6'5", 330. He's just nasty. Like, I couldn't help but fall in love with this tape. And he did only allow 10 pressures and a sack, but I love how nasty Reed Adams is at Texas A&M. And maybe it's the Bengals fan in me that I was like, if I could get Reed, is it Reed Adams or Reed Williams? Because I have Reed Adams on my notes.
I believe I have. Let me pull it up here.
Totally screwed that up. Yeah. I think it's Reed Adams, but I had Williams. For some reason, I put Williams for no reason on the graphic.
It is Adams.
Yeah, I thought it was, but then I was like, wait, why did I put Williams? This is what happens when you're making graphics at like 2 a.m, guys, trying to do stuff. But he's an older prospect, nasty demeanor. I like him quite a bit. You didn't have him on your list, just like I don't have your number 8, who is a bit of an undersized tackle in Amal Wagner. I'm a 27 guy from Notre Dame, so tell us about him.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. It's 6'6", but he's also listed at 290, but I think it's closer to 280. But I mean, man, he just has a very good lateral agility and pass protection and can get side to side very easily. Also, very good leverage and keeps his pad level low despite being 6'6". Maintains his anchor pretty well against power rushers, which is pretty surprising for a guy to 280 pounds. But yeah, again, 280 pounds, that's a weight deficiency. When you are facing 330-pound defensive tackles or 300-pound defensive linemen, you're giving up 20 pounds of leverage to start with. I really want to see him add mass, but he's got a lot in his game that's very, very similar to like Marcus Bowe when he was at Purdue, and even like Blake Fisher when he was at Notre Dame as well. So for me, I see a lot of Bowe in his game. So could he slide inside to guard with that weight deficiency? Absolutely. But I think he sticks at tackle. You put 20 pounds on him, and I think you're fine. But I wouldn't put him on the blind side at 300 pounds flat.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a really good right tackle with 20 more pounds. I just got him more as a 2027 guy. And your top 8 is all tackles. Am I correct in saying that? Some of them, maybe they could, flip
You
over
are correct. All of my top 8 are tackles, but have some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them have guard versatility or fail at tackle first.
So my top 7 are all tackles that I would like to see fail at tackle also, and we'll talk about ones that could be guards. But my number 7, Isaiah World, 6'8", 309, transferring to Oregon from Nevada. So step up in competition. I got to see it. Long athlete, basketball background, 3-year starter, experience at both left and right tackle, which I like to see, and was one of the top tackles in the portal after allowing just 1 sack and had an 82.4 pass block grade. So that's where I'm at with Isaiah World from Oregon as my number 7. Yours is it Jennings or Ginnings Dunker from Iowa?
I've got Jennings Dunker is what I've got.
Yeah, that's how I would say it. But I feel like I've heard people say it differently, and I'm like, I am from Southern Ohio, so.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at his size, verified 6'4", 317, 33.5-inch arms. So he checks every box for that tackle position. Just an absurd amount of strength that he moves people out of the way and does it viciously and does it by pushing his head through their chin straps. Also, it's another Iowa offensive lineman, and Iowa does a few things really well, and it's tight end and offensive line. And you see it. His football intelligence, he's physical, he's violent, has probably the best mullet mustache combo in all of college football.
That's extra points for that.
Yeah, that's an extra brownie point. Also has one of the weirdest like pregame football regimens in terms of what he eats before game, during game, and after game. But I mean, for me, I would put him at right tackle, but fully expect him to kick inside, kind of like a David Deal type of scenario, which is my comp for him, just because he's physical, he's large, he's got the length, he checks all those boxes. But the biggest concern is he gets out too far in front of his skis, and in pass protection, he gives up unnecessary leverage. And in addition to that, he doesn't really have the knee bend that you'd like for a guy that's 6'4". So a lot of his bend is coming from the waist, giving up more leverage concerns.
My number 6 is your number 2. It's Caleb Lomu from Utah. Utah's got some damn good offensive linemen. Just spoiler alert. And most people that watch summer scouting or into it know that. But Lomu, 6'6", 304, redshirt sophomore, which is insane. High football IQ, a lot of good traits. I have some concerns about the size, functional strength, but it's a guy I've moved up the more I watch him, and I could continue to move him up. And with another good season, I think he's even higher. Maybe he's 2027, but so talented. Fano, who is my offensive lineman 1, was moved to right tackle from left tackle so Lomu could play left tackle. That says everything in the world about this guy to me and how talented he is, whether it's 26 or 27. I think this is a guy who is easily a first-round pick. How high is the ceiling? Pretty damn high. So I'm excited about him. I'll let you talk about him more since he is your O lineman / O tackle. Number 2, could move to guard, but I don't see it. He's too smooth at tackle.
Yeah, I don't see him moving to guard. I think he's a tackle, especially when you look at his pass protection and his ability to slide and kick. It's magic. It's wonderful to see. Also, just a jarring punch in pass protection that just leaves defenders stonewalled. My biggest concern is his frame, and it's that he's, from what I've got verified here, 6'5", 299. So he's sub 300 pounds. So I need him to be able to add mass, but also not lose this athleticism that he has and this, ability in terms of being able to test athletically He moves like a tight end at 299 pounds. And that's awesome. But also, I need you to be able to hold your own. And I'm not confident he can do that at 299, which is why he is my number 2 guy. But also, he's my number 2 guy because guys that are 299 pounds should not move in the same fashion that he does. But I'm with you. Do we see him this year? I think if Utah comes out and they have a great season and he blows up and he's a top 10 pick, I think we see him. And same thing for Fano as well. I think we see him also. But the same conversation you have with Lomu, you have with Fano, because I've got 6'5", 303 for him. So again, another guy that's still slightly lighter. He passes the 300 pound threshold, but you want to have some more there. But man, Fano just generates a significant amount of power in the run game and is athletic enough in pass protection. You could tell me either one of them would play left tackle or right tackle in the NFL, and I'd have no problems with it. I think either one of them. I think you could take him and play him at right tackle, take him and play him at left tackle. But either way, I think both of them need to get in an NFL conditioning room and add about 10 to 15 pounds of mass.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little more about Fano here in a second. But I'm going to put you back on the spot because 6 and 5 are not on my list. It's Fa'ali'i. I ain't even going to do it. I'll let you do it. And then and Caleb Tiernan at 5. And then if it goes into it, because I'm gonna check on my dog, which is a code word for peeing. So if you need to pee during this, because we're 2 hours in, just say you need to check on your dog. And then I'll talk about some of my prospects. But I'm going to check on my dog, talk about your 6 and 5. And if I'm not back by the time you're done talking about Tiernan, start with 4 because that's my 5, and that's Caden Proctor.
I gotcha. Yeah. So for number 6, it's Fa'alili Fa'amoe, but I just call him Lili Fa'amoe from Wake Forest. Big thing is size, 6'5", 318 pounds, almost 34-inch arms, long arms, good build, probably going to stick at right tackle, but could play inside at guard. Very powerful base, has good pop in his hands, comfortable run blocking, especially going downhill. But the big concern is his pass protection. It's inconsistent. The footwork struggles to get to the second level. It's not as quick as you'd like, which is why he probably moves inside playing at guard. He also does get a little grabby when he's beat, so there's going to be a lot of holding calls from him. But there is a lot to like with Fa'amoe, especially when he has that size and that power. With Tiernan, you look at him, he is currently 6'7", 320 pounds, but the arm length conversation, and I know it's July, Bill, why are we having a conversation about arm length for offensive linemen? But it happens. 32.5-inch arms. Typically, you'd like to be close. You'd like to be 33 or plus. So 32.5 is a bit of a concern as to why he probably could slip inside to guard. But I think he sticks outside at tackle because he's got the foot quickness to stay out there. He's got the anchor strength to stay out there at offensive tackle. And also, he rarely gets caught off balance, rarely gets caught leaning. Just a nasty finisher in the run game for Tiernan. For me, I see a lot of Brian O'Neill in his game with the Minnesota Vikings. And I think even though he has the arm length concern at 32.5 inches verified, you could still keep him at tackle, but he ultimately probably slides inside to guard at the next level because of that arm length concern.
Yeah, and you have guys like Dunker was my tackle 11, Tiernan's my tackle 14, guys that we're not too far off on. Austin Barber's my 13, Monroe Freeling, which is a huge projection, my tackle 12. Drew Shelton, my tackle 10. There's a lot of guys that we're not going to get to that maybe we will at other points. Maybe we'll fire out some more of these best of the rest show or something.
Right.
But we'll keep this one going. O-lineman, I got Caden Proctor at 5. You've got him at 4. 6'7", 360. It starts there, which is good and bad. Maybe he's a little too big. I'll just start with, I don't think but he moves well in general. But the foot speed against speed rushers, I have some concerns about. He's played a lot of football already, entering his third year as a starter for Bama. Even though he did transfer to Iowa, he transferred back to Bama without missing a season. But I'd like to see him lose maybe a little weight just to help with that foot speed and just overall. Guys that are that big don't typically work out in the NFL at a high rate. I was a high on DeJuan Jones as a Buckeye fan. And as a Browns fan, maybe you could speak on that with DeJuan Jones to start this conversation. But he does move well in space, and he is physical, and he will put guys in the ground. I do think there's some balance concerns, but a lot of people have Proctor as their number one. I have him at 5. You have him at 4. So talk about Proctor and everything with Proctor, because there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. I've got him at 6'7", 369, and when you hear that, you're even bigger. You hear that, you're like, oh my gosh, 369 pounds. He can block everything. Yes, he can. He also has very good hands and very violent hands to be able to push people around. The problem is if you get around him in any way, especially as a speed rusher or outside on the arc as a pass rusher, he cannot redirect in any way, shape, or form.
That is not true, Crip. That is not true. Did not have bad guacamole. Just that's not what that means. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. That's the concern with Proctor is if you get around him at all, and it's just like with DeJuan Jones when he was larger as well, coming out of Ohio State. If you get around him, he doesn't have the speed to get back and redirect. The other concern I have, and you see it a lot with Alabama's tape, watch them when they go no huddle and up tempo. There's some cardio concerns with Proctor. There's points where I saw hands on hips, hands on thighs, struggling to breathe, it looked like, because of the consistent up-tempo offense, go, go, go. And at 370 pounds, that's a lot of weight you have to move. And at a certain point, there's the conversation, are you going to be able to play him every snap of every game at that weight? And I would love to see him lose some of it. I don't lose all of it because obviously that's one of your calling cards. But if he dropped to 350, I'd be a happy camper.
And I think that's what he needs to do. If we're being honest, he needs to be 350, 345. That's still a large ass man.
Yeah.
But
it's a maintainable.
Because he's a good. Yes. That's the difference. I'll talk about my 4 and 3 here, which is Judd Bowery and Cage Casey. Bowery, Boston College, 6'5", 308, redshirt junior. Might have the highest upside in this entire fucking class. And that's saying a lot. Smooth mover. Coaches and teammates rave about what type of leader and what type of person he is off the field. Light feet, strong anchor. There's about some arm length, so maybe this is one of those guys that kick in. But I love Judd Bowery, and that's why he comes in at 4 on my list. He's not on yours, so I'll have you talk about him next. But I'll also mention Cage Casey, who is not on your list as well. 6'5", 315, redshirt junior. Allowed 6 pressures, 0 sacks last year for Boise State. I just think he's a consistent technician, tons of experience. Some questions if he has the athleticism and length to stick at tackle at the next level. Maybe this is another guy that moves into guard. But at 86.9 pass block grade last year for a Boise State team, and that's a pass block grade. So obviously he can run block too because they had Ashton Jeanty.
Yep.
A lot I like with these guys. They're not on your list. Your thoughts on them, and then we will move into we'll do Fanu next, the other Utah tackle, after you just kind of touch on these two, why they're not in your top 10, I guess.
Yeah, so Bowery is right outside my top 10. He is my offensive lineman number 13. So he's right there. And I see it. I see the vision. My concerns are with arm length. I've heard 32-inch flat. Don't have a verified, but I've heard 32-inch flat, which if you're going to be sub 33, 32 and 5/8 is probably the floor to play tackle. So I could see him as he'd be a hell of a guard. But guards get a little bit pushed down the board because everybody needs tackles. And same thing with Cage Casey. I've heard 33 and a half, 33 and 3/8 as far as arm length, not verified, but that's what I've heard. So it wouldn't shock me if both of those guys play guard. Would they be 10-year pros in the NFL at guard? Abso-freaking-lutely, because of how talented they are. So they're both outside of my list. Bowery a little bit higher than Casey. Casey, I have a fourth round, could slide into the third round grade though.
All fair. So we'll talk about Spencer Fano. He's your 3, my 1. I love this guy. But do you want me to kick it off, or you want to kick it off?
I'll let you roll with it because I rolled with him earlier when we talked about Lomu.
Okay, you kind of already touched on him, but I'll let you finish off with this one. 6'6", 302, great athlete, left or right tackle, played left 2 years ago, right last year because of the emergence of Lomu and wanting to get him on the field. Moves like a tight end. Love the effort this guy plays with. He's a people mover, even though he's only 300 pounds. Maybe he's even smaller than 300 pounds. Nasty. Loves to finish. Like everything I want to see when I'm watching tape on an offensive lineman, I saw it with this guy, and I go, oh, I'm in love with this guy. Spencer Fano is my guy. There's no knock on anyone else on this list. There's a lot of good prospects, but I love this guy. Elite run blocker, 93.6 grade. He's played almost 1,400 snaps, and he's just now entering his true junior season. He's young. He's athletic. He's talented. He's nasty. It just screams top 10, top 15 player to me. Left tackle, right tackle. I don't care. Give me this player on my football team. I love Spencer Fano.
100%. My biggest concern with him is he's listed at 304. I've heard 301, 302. So you are over the 300-pound marker. But, at 300 pounds, it's tough for a tackle. So he's got the athletic ability.
I get it. I know.
I just need give me 10 more pounds. If you told me 315, great, happy camper. Oh. And he's my number 3 guy. And for what it's worth, all 3 of those guys, Mauigoa, Lomu, and Fano, are all in my top 10. So they're all pretty fairly interchangeable.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So your number 1 is my number 2, and that is Mauigoa. 6'6", 315, really good blocking on moves, played right tackle, top 5 recruit out of high school, day 1 starter for Miami. He's got to clean up the penalties going forward. Should be a first-round pick after the season. Quality anchor strength, powerful hands, improved his footwork and hand usage from year 1 to year 2. I expect another jump in every one of those areas this season. And maybe he is just I've seen some people talk about guard with him. I think he is just going to be one of those really good-ass right tackles. Maybe if there's an injury, he plays left tackle. I know some people are like, I would have him higher if he was a left. I want good blocking linemen at left or right tackle.
Yep.
And I think he is one. And maybe he sticks at right tackle. He's still a top 10 talent.
Yep, 100%. And ultimately, when you have this conversation of, left tackles are more valuable, right tackle, you need 2 good offensive tackles in the NFL to succeed. You need a left tackle. You'd like to have one that's more, of a powerful kind of run blocker, nitty gritty type, and one that handles more finesse edge rusher types. But you need 2. But I mean, Mauigoa, 6'6", 315 is what I have. Just a freak of an athlete. Like he gets to the second level like a tight end, and he just blows by folks. But also just is explosive as a leg driver and just gets people moving. And also, he has probably got the nastiest streak of any offensive tackle, and a lot of that leads to the penalties, like you talked about, that he needs to cut down on. And again, for me, I want to see his over aggressiveness and pass protection kind of dial back. He gets too far out over his skis. But man, he right now is probably he's my number 1 offensive tackle. And I see a lot of what I saw in Penei Sewell at Oregon in Mauigoa.
Ooh.
And
high praise.
High praise, but I think he's worth every bit of it. He's my number 3 overall player. And if you told me someone took him number 1 overall, even though he plays right tackle, he could play left tackle. He could slide over there, but I think you put him at right tackle and you were talking about an all-pro right tackle by the end of that first contract.
Man, I love when Bill just fires off with these comps. The King fires off with these comps, and I just get so excited thinking about because it does. It gives people the high end. And I'm terrible at comps, so I really appreciate that you do that. It gets me excited.
100%.
We are moving on to defense after 2 hours and 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Edge
We just
rusher.
love talking offense. Yeah.
No, I love talking defense.
Well,
I haven't got any defensive talk, so I'm excited to start this conversation. Miguel Kamara, who is my number 10, you're number 4. Wow, I see him not even in a lot of people's top 10. So for him to be your number 4 excites me. 6'1", 265, pressure fucking demon. 67 pressures last year. Undersized, probably a lack of length, but his determination and effort cannot be questioned. Powerful hands, quick first step, had 10 sacks last year. There is some questions about the size and length and also overall athleticism, but I'm going to kick it off and let you go right into him because he's your number 4, and then I'll let you get your 10.
Yeah. So Mikhail Kamara, Indiana. So I've got verifieds. 6 foot flat, 260 pounds, 32 3/4 inch arms. So you hear that, and it's kind of a funky build, but like you said, this guy is a pressure demon. Like the pass rush plan is refined. The hands are heavy at the point of attack. He's got ankle flexibility. He's got it all. And you could have him stand up and rush the passer, put his hand in the dirt in a 3-4, in a 4-3, a motor that goes all night long. Every bit of that is great. The only reason he's outside my top 3, which all 3 of my top 3 are first round picks. So first round grades, excuse me. All 3
They're
of those
also
are first
freaks.
round.
They are free. Those are 3 freaks at the top, to be fair.
Exactly. And that's
5
part of it is
exactly a freak too. 5 is a freak.
Yeah. 5 is a freak. The only reason he can't crack that top 3 is his frame. 6 foot 260 is a bowling ball frame. So it's rough to look at, but still, I mean, the way he rushes the passer, it's 6 foot 260. I don't care about frame. Go get the quarterback. For me, I see a lot of Uchenna Nwosu from Seattle in his game, who played more of a stand-up linebacker role. If you told me that Kamara wanted to play that role in the NFL in like a 3-4 and lose about 20 pounds, I would say great, because I'm just going to unleash you on the passer. He's that good of a pass rusher. And going to my next one, Anto Saka from Northwestern, that's the same conversation. He's got an explosive first step, a very good change of direction, very fluid in space. So you could use him again also in a 4-3 role or stand up as a linebacker in a 3-4 role. He is still developing somewhat of a pass rush. He's got enough moves to get by, but it's not as well defined as Kamara is. But he also is a little bit on the light side if you're going to put his hand in the dirt. At 6'4", 245 is what I've got. So he probably fits better in a 3-4 outside linebacker scenario. But man, I mean, you talk about that with Saka. He's like Bruce Irvin, just like Irvin was at West Virginia. Just a pass rush athletic specialist. So both Kamara and Saka at 10, there's a lot to love in terms of pass rush on both of our lists.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 9 may also be a DPR, 6'3", 240, David Bailey, transferring to Texas Tech from Stanford. Bit of a linebacker edge tweener, and honestly, hasn't played a ton of snaps, but elite pressure rate, 46.5 on true pass sets last season, 7 sacks, explosive, good pursuit speed. Solid foundation of pass rush moves. Has to improve as a run defender if he ever wants to see the field besides just third down or obvious passing situations. But either way, I have him at 9 because I'm like, give me him as a DPR. Go get the quarterback wherever I put you. Move around a little bit. Go get the quarterback. I like him. I want to see what he can do this season. He's not on your list. If you want to mention him, cool. If not, you're number 9, Patrick Payton, just outside my top 10. But I liked 2 years ago, Patrick Payton.
Yes. So David Bailey is just outside my top 10. He's my edge 12 just for that reason. He's a DPR, and I just can't convince myself of taking a DPR in the top 10 without having any form of a run ability. But I see the vision with him 100%. And the next one on my list, Patrick Payton, now going to LSU, verified 6'4, 252, 34-inch arms. I mean, you look at him, that length shows up frequently, a good motor, has the ability to showcase very fluid movements in space. So you could have him drop into coverage, play him in a 3-4 role. He's got the size to play in a 4-3 role. He just really needs to continue focusing on his get off ability. A lot of times he's a click late and getting off the snap, and he relies too heavy on finesse rather than power, and can't really convert speed to power very well, but I think it's something he can work on. He's kind of like Arden Key was when he was at LSU, in that same finesse style of edge rusher that's really good at being that. But if he runs up against an offensive tackle that can handle him, he's pretty much useless. And that's kind of where he sits at number 9 for me.
Yeah, one thing with Peyton is like I see a little bit of Princely Umanmielen. The lengthwise, like a little the athleticism wise, like, and I loved Princely. I don't want to be hurt again. I thought Princely could have been a first round guy, and that didn't happen. So I was hurt. I was a little hurt. So full disclosure. I think we got a little bit of projection with both of our number 8 here. Cassius Howell for me, Texas A&M, 6'4", 245, great bowl game. And he produced at Bowling Green in 2023. He's got huge pass rush upside, expansive set of moves, a lethal spin move, great quickness off the snaps. In limited playing time for A&M, he had 8 penalties, though, last year. Considered a bit undersized and could add some bulk to that frame. But Cassius Howell is a fun prospect to me. Talk about your number 8. Boubacar Traore. I probably butchered that.
Hey, no, you got it right on the nose. Boubacar Traore is what I have from Notre Dame. 6'4", 240 for Traore. And the big thing about him is he just has an excellent motor and very good stamina to play all 4 quarters. His spin move is absolutely filthy when he breaks it out, and blockers just can't react to it. And he has a really good closing burst. Has the ideal length that you look for as an edge rusher. I think he probably fits better as a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he hasn't really been able to stand up in coverage to showcase that. So he also, doesn't really have the speed of a chase and tackle guy. He's got enough of a twitch, but doesn't really have the speed. This is going to sound like high praise, but this is the early beginnings of Khalil Mack. So when Khalil Mack,
shit, that is high praise.
When he first arrived at Buffalo, when he first arrived at Buffalo, like his freshman year, that's what Traore is now. And I think that Traore has every ability and tool in his tool bag to develop into Khalil Mack, which is why he's here at 8. It's a lot of a projection with him. But if you told me he comes back and next year we're talking about him as edge 1, hey, you get no arguments.
And he's not on my list because I strictly have him 2027 because he had an injury last year. But holy shit, you're making me get very excited about that guy. So I love that. Tyreek Sapp is my 7, not on your list. Florida, he's an interesting guy. He's probably a 3-4 edge, to be honest. 6'2", 272, just a stout-ass run defender. One of the best stop percentages in the country. It was 12.1% last year. That's filthy. He is so good as a run defender, violent hand, stout anchor, but he hasn't shown much as a pass rusher, which is probably why he's not on your list.
Yep.
And then I'll let you jump into Max Llewellyn. Actually, let's skip LT Overton. We'll do him next. But Max Llewellyn is yours. Anything on Sapp before you talk about Max Llewellyn, the Iowa edge?
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. The reason Sapp is my number 15 edge, and the reason he's there is there's just nothing there as a pass rusher. It's all run defender. So
there's not upside. There's not really upside there even.
Bingo. And that's if I have upside, I can project that, but I can't project him as being anything more than a run defender, which is a day 3 grade for me. But at Max Llewellyn, Iowa edge, 6'5", 260 pounds, 32 and 3/4 inch arms, all verified, strong frame, strong motor, has a very good bull rush, and is also versatile enough to play as a large defensive end in a 3-4 and on the outside as a 4-3. Has enough explosion around the arc to be a finesse pass rusher, but his bread and butter is going to be two things. It's going to be pushing people back into the quarterback's lap with a bull rush and a spin move that's probably one of the best in this class. The way he just puts people in a blender. Another comp that's a little bit of high praise, but I think he can get there, is Kyle Vanden Bosch. When Kyle Vanden Bosch played in Tennessee, I think that's what Max can bring to an NFL roster, in the fact that he's a large physical athlete with a good spin move and a decent set of tools that allows him to be a productive edge rusher at the next level. But that's why he lands here at 6, because like we've talked about, the next 5 guys up are just all freaks of nature.
That's fair. My freak at 5 is Dennis Sutton, but I'll get to him in a minute. I think this guy's a freak too, that you have at 7 and I have at 6. And that's LT Overton from Alabama, originally at Texas Tech, 6'5", 285. So he's got that versatility to be a D tackle or an edge. I thought he's fantastic last year creating pressure, but he didn't finish at a high enough rate. Only had 2 sacks on the season. Great bull rush power, active hands to get in passing lanes, gives consistent effort at all times. And my question that I put in my notes was, where will he end up playing? Is he a 3-4 only type of guy? Because he's kind of that, he's probably not big enough to be tackle in a 4-3, and he's probably not explosive enough to be a full-time edge in one of those either. So your thoughts on Overton?
Yeah, so I'm gonna break your heart a little bit, because I bring verified measurements and they are a little shocking. 6'2", 270 pounds.
What the fucking hell?
Is what is verified for LT Overton. No, I saw it too, and I had to confirm it. But yeah, that's what he's 6'2", 270 is what you're gonna get with LT Overton. So.
Oh God, he's actually like that size alone will move him down the list.
Yeah, and that's why he's still at 7, because he has very good run stopping ability and has a decent pass rush set. But at 6'2", 270, I can't put you in a 4-3 edge spot because you're too large at 270 and too short at 6'2", and you're not big enough.
Kamara is 6'1", 60 and so much better of a pass rusher.
Yeah, Kamara, 6. You're talking a difference between Kamara and Overton. Overton's 2 inches taller and 10 pounds heavier.
I understand now why Kamara is at 4 on your list and Overton's at 7.
Yeah,
I understand now.
And that's I saw that measurement and I had to confirm it, and I've confirmed it with 2 other places and 2 other sources. That's why he's so low, because I don't know where to play you. And when you're 270 pounds, you should be much more physical, and I don't see it. And you're not athletic enough to be 270. And with Overton, I don't know where to put you. If he dropped 25 pounds and was down to, say, 6'2", 255, now we have a conversation of, okay, now maybe I can play you on the outside in a 4-3. But also, you're going to probably lose some of that strength that was your calling card. So
those are Tyreek Sapp numbers as well. Like 6'2", 270 is Tyreek Sapp. And I know he is a better pass rusher than Sapp. But at the same point in time, he's nowhere close as a run defender. And at his size, he needs to be better as a run defender.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That one hurts. That's all I got on that. Nope. Moving on. Dennis Sutton, 6'5", 254. I think he continues trending upward. All the traits to potentially be a first-round type of guy. He's got to put it all together. He's had some injury things. He's got a impressive spin move, good length, alignment versatility, 8.5 sacks last year, even dealing with those injuries. Got to be better as a run defender, and I don't think he has elite pursuit speed. So some of the overall athleticism is maybe not as good as you would hope for a guy that you want to see have that. Any thoughts on Sutton? And then I guess we will move on to Mateo, and I'll let you say the last name because I always butchered it with his brother.
Yep. With Dan Dennis Sutton, verified 6'5", 255 rather than 272. So now the conversation about his athletic ability changes a little bit, because at 272 you looked really athletic, but now 255 you look a little bit on the don't know side, which is why he doesn't make my top 10. He makes number 11 for me for Dan Dennis Sutton, but I think he's got every ability to vault up the board. For me, it's a lot of like Greg Rousseau for Miami and now Buffalo. You know, good athlete, good size, but I mean,
good, not great. Like just you're okay. You're not like ever going to be the guy. I don't see the potential for you to be the guy. I think that's a good point. Yeah,
he's just a good guy, which is fine. It's okay to be good, but when you're in the top 10, you got to be great. But so Mateo Ugalele, which
there we go. You say it way better than me. My number 2, your number 5.
Yeah. So for Ugalele, I've got 6'5", 270 is what I've got.
That's what listed. I have. Yeah.
And at 270, he's got an explosive first step that it just looks like he's playing at full speed when everyone else is playing at half speed. And you see it. He can play as a stand-up linebacker, a hand in the dirt, a 3-4 defensive end. You know, he's also a former tight end that converted to defensive end. So he's still somewhat learning the position. You know, has good versatility. You know, my biggest concern is that he does remain somewhat one-dimensional as a pass rusher, really mainly focused on speed and finesse. Doesn't really have a whole lot of bull rush move, but don't get it twisted. That's still a really good speed rusher. There's not a whole lot in terms of a power game, and you'd like to see him develop more of a counter when that initial move stalls. But for me, I see a lot of Preston Smith here. The same things that Preston Smith does in Green Bay in that 3-4 defense, but also in some 4-3 hybrids, Mateo can do for a team. For me, my biggest concern is, can you ever develop anything outside of that speed game, or am I going to use you as a speed rusher? At which point, that's pretty much going to kind of lock you into a 4-3 defensive end or a 3-4 outside linebacker, both of which at 270 pounds, you're a little heavy for.
Yeah. I just see a lot of traits with him, and him. Number 2 is 100% traits based. He did have 10 sacks last year, but it is traits based. He has to be more consistent, and he has to expand the pass rush arsenal. Like, as you mentioned, relying on the traits instead of the actual counter moves and the actual power and the things that he has, the length, and he has the size to do. He has to be more consistent for me, but I have it 2 because I think he's a guy who could take the next step.
Yep.
So I have him there. My 4 is your 1, so we'll save that one. Let's go to Keldrick Falk, who is both of our number 3s. Talk about size, talk about strength. And he had 7 sacks, but it was a lot of, I don't think his pass rush overall is very good. I think he's got a lot of work in that area, but he is one of those set the edge type run defenders that are very valuable. I know, was it Brugler that had him at 1 for his edge ranking?
Yeah, I believe Brugler had him at 1, yes.
Yeah. And I can see why. Brugler loves traits. Brugler loved Shamar Stewart. Brugler loved Michael Williams.
Yeah.
There's a lot of finer points that Keldrick Falk doesn't have yet you hope to see, but Brugler will always bet on those. I have him at 3, and that's still very high. You have him at 3.
Yeah.
But I think he's got a lot of work to do for the finer things of being an edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
But great size and great power and strength and run defending floor. Your thoughts on Falk?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I've got him at 6'6", 288. and traits just oozing off the tape for him. And the power is there. The run defense, probably one of the best run defenders in this class. You watch the Kentucky game, and he made that left guard look absolutely ridiculous, ragdolling him. In addition to that, he plays with a genuine violence through contact and does it down in and down out. My concern is that his pass rush plan's a little underdeveloped. It's just, hey, I have God-given traits, an athlete. I'm going to use them. And that's okay. But at a certain point, when you get to the next level, you have to develop some sort of a plan. For me, my comp for him is Ziggy Ansah, the former top 5 pick for the Detroit Lions, a big guy who has traits all over his tape and was a solid run defender. But ultimately, if you're going to be a 3-down lineman, I need you to develop some form of a pass rush plan, which is why he's the lowest of the 3 at the top, because he just doesn't have that plan. But also, my God, at 288 pounds and 6'6", and you're moving like that, good Lord, that's top 5 traits. And I see why Dane had him number 1.
Yeah, and I will say too, because Dane Brugler is the GOAT. If you're in the draft community, love Dane Brugler. Mm-hmm. Like, the guy, just don't always agree with everything, but hey, the guy's the GOAT for a reason. But he's not even 20 years old. So, like, a projection for summer scouting, yeah, it would be easy for somebody to have this guy number 1. I think there's a lot that we want to see, me and you, Bill, want to see from this guy to have him as our edge 1. But your edge 1 and my edge 4 is Rueben Bain Jr., 6'3", 275, was injured last year for part of the season, but he came back and, maybe wasn't the same guy as a true freshman, but was still pretty damn good. Thick build, high effort, great closing speed, powerful bull rush. If he stays healthy, this is a guy in the conversation for top 10. So, and why you have him at number 1? Probably for that same reason.
Yep, 100%. Because you look at him, he's 6'3", 275, and just an exceptional first step. The way he moves, guys of that size shouldn't be able to move. Has an advanced pass rush technique that goes deep, from counters to spins to swims to rips, all of it. But also has a very good leverage advantage at 6'3", because he plays with very good pad level. He doesn't let that pad level go up and give up that unnecessary leverage. The one thing that I often see about Bain is that last season, and you mentioned it, he didn't play very well. We also have to remind ourselves he had a calf injury. And for edge rushers, having calf injuries are huge because you can't get that push off without being in pain. So I think this year, if he stays healthy, he has every bit of the tools to be a star. Not only is he my edge 1, but he is my number 1 overall player on my big board.
Ooh,
if you told me he went number 1 overall in this year's draft, you'll get no argument. None. Because he's my number 1 overall guy. And I see a lot of Brandon Graham in Rueben Bain's game. I think he's got to stay healthy. And I think he's got to clean up his tackling technique, because it's inconsistent. Sometimes he's just throwing his 275-pound frame at people. And that's okay. That can be cleaned up. But what I'm going to pay you for as an edge rusher is to get after the passer, get in the backfield, and do it multiple ways, which he can do. And that's why he's my number 1 guy.
Yeah, and your number 2 is my number 1. That's TJ Parker from Clemson, 6'3", 265, entering a true junior season, elite prospect. I love the effort against the run and as a pass rusher. His plan and arsenal is advanced for his age. A lot of experience through just 2 seasons, and production-wise, last year 11 sacks and a ridiculous 6 forced fumbles. And he looks to absolutely punish motherfuckers when he gets a chance. Like, he wants to hurt people. He wants to force the ball out. And I love that. 26.2% win rate on true pass sets. He has to be more consistent as a run defender and more reliable as a tackler with better awareness against the run. But overall, I think TJ Parker is a very, very good prospect. And I don't think you disagree having him at 2.
No, not at all. I mean, like he talked about, this is a guy 6'3", 265. He is what I call a guy that looks the part. First guy off the bus. When you see him walk off that bus, just a violent edge rusher with violent hand usage, looks to get the ball out, punch the ball out. 6 forced fumbles last season. So he was doing it on a consistent basis, forcing
Insane.
turnovers.
It's insane. It's an insane number. It's an insane
Yeah.
number.
It's insane. My biggest concern with him is his first step explosiveness isn't elite, but that's because he wins with technique and timing rather than his pure twitch. So as a speed rusher, he's going to be limited, but as an overall pass rusher, he wins with technique, he wins with timing, he wins with hand placement. This comp is going to sound lofty, but I think he can get there. And from a play style perspective where he is right now, I think it perfectly fits. Julius Peppers.
Ooh,
Is what I see
like
in TJ Parker. And I think he can.
Peppers
I think
was
he
bigger
can
and longer, though, right? Peppers was longer.
He was a little bit longer. So if you kind of compress Parker down, that's what you're going to get. Or kind of compress Peppers down, that's what you get with Parker. But everything that Peppers did well in terms of technique, in terms of hand timing, in terms of placement, in terms of his motor, all of that, Parker's got in spades.
But I do like I said, the first step get off. So if you're looking for Abdul Carter, he's not Abdul Carter. He is much different than Abdul Carter, who is a transferring from linebacker, explosive type of guy. He's not like, if you're looking for that jump off tape explosiveness off the snap, that's not him. He's just very good, very solid, and very angry. He plays angry, and I like it.
100%.
All right, we'll move on to defensive tackles. Try to get as much of this in it as we can. You got Cole Brevard and Marcus Deal at your 10 and 9. So I'll let you talk about those guys first, because I'll be honest, I haven't watched much of either of them.
Yeah. So when you look at the two of them, so Cole Brevard, verified 6'2", 348, 32.5-inch arms. So you see his game. The big thing is he is a space eater that will clog lanes in the run game, but he doesn't give you anything in terms of pass protection. And that's where a lot of this list. So on my top 10 defensive tackles, everyone after number 6, so 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all day 3 guys for one reason or another. And for Brevard, it's that there's limited pass rush upside because he doesn't penetrate, but he is a hell of a run defender at his size. Marcus Deal, 6'5", 325, is a redshirt sophomore, has an excellent motor, has length, good strength and balance.
Is he TCU? Is that TCU?
Yes. Yep, that's TCU.
Okay.
Yep. And, pure power, and he's got strength for days, but he doesn't really have a lot of suddenness to his game. He is a power rusher in the middle of your defense, which is fine, but he just hasn't produced at that level. He's also young, so it wouldn't shock me to see him return to school. But Brevard is your true run defending defensive tackle, and then Marcus Deal is your true high upside pass rusher that needs to learn how to set the edge.
I think I did watch a little bit of Dill. Did someone transfer from TCU?
It was Devin Deal, which...
Okay. No, someone else. The transfer from TCU to, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank, but I think I watched him because I watched somebody else that was at TCU a year or so ago. My 10 is Bear Alexander, 6'3", 315. This is a big projection because he didn't play a lot for USC, but I go back to the 23 tape. Alignment versatile, athletic, 32 pressures in 2023. There was a lot to like. He's very naturally talented type of player. And I think with Oregon, if he sticks it out the whole season, unlike USC last year, he has a chance to climb up the board. So that was my 10. I'll talk about my number 8, which is Tim Keenan, 6'2", 326, stout run defender, natural leverage, good lateral agility for his size. And he had an impressive 19.1% win rate on true pass sets, but that's not what he is. He is a run defender that can handle double teams and do all the dirty work in the middle of the defense. So any thoughts on Alexander and Keenan, who I had at 10 and 8? As then we'll go ahead and talk about your 8, which is Kristen Miller, who I have at 5.
Yeah.
But it's a projection there too for me.
Yeah. So with Bear Alexander, I can tell you this, he is undraftable on my board. When you include the transfer that he just had this past season, he's gone to
high school
schools.
transfers too, right?
Yeah, 8 schools.
Yeah. That's Jermaine Burton level. Trust me, I have that in my notes as well.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head with Tim Keenan. I think he's a really good run defender, but ultimately also you're just a run defender and there's no pass rush upside. And I can't in good conscience spend more than a day 3 pick on a guy that's not going to give me anything outside of run defense just because it's not a good use of draft capital. But Kristen Miller, 6'4", 305 is what I've got listed for him. And very good first step. It's not explosive, but it's enough. You know, a good anchor, consistently holds his ground in double teams. Also is very quick as a lateral mover as a defensive tackle. You know, has very good pad level, but I mean, his pass rush production, we're talking about a guy that's 2.5 sacks through 3 seasons so far. It's just not there. And again, when I don't have pass rush production from the defensive tackle spot, I'm not asking you to have double-digit sacks, but 2.5 career sacks through 3 seasons, it's not going to get it done. Plus, in addition to that, I have questions on his shoulder. He just had surgery on it. So, you know, can he stay healthy? What's that shoulder look like? I just don't see it. And that's why he's here at number 8 and a day 3 guy. When you can't stay healthy and there's no pass rush production from you, that's a round 4 or 5 guy.
And your size, and I know I have him at 5, but 6'4", 305 with no pass rush production. That's different than being Tim Keenan at 330 and you're an elite run stuffer. But he does
100%.
have the run stopping ability. Good back and shed guy, 8.7% run stop rate, alignment and scheme versatile. I also have about the shoulder surgery. You got to monitor that. Limited sack production. I don't feel like we're too off on the player. Just have him ranked a little different. Dante Corleone at 9, you're 1. So we'll save it. We will save Corleone, especially for the UC Bearcat fans that are watching this show. But I have 7. I have Lee Hunter, not on your list, 6'4", 320, transferring to Texas Tech. Common theme here. The oil money is real.
Yes,
and they are spending money. But he's a good athlete for 320, plays violently, 21.7% win rate on true pass sets, 8.2% stop rate in run defense. He's got to expand the arsenal, and I need to see him put up more sack production for him to comfortably set even on my list at 7. But it's a guy I clipped up, I liked. I'm going to have him at 7. You don't have him that high. Any thoughts on Lee Hunter? And we'll jump into your D tackle 7 along with that Darrell Jackson, who is my D tackle 3. But a lot of work with there. So I feel like we're not too far off on thoughts on him.
Yeah. And with Lee Hunter, he is right now, he's a day 3 guy, kind of a mid to late round 4. Because the big thing is he's very stiff. This is a guy doesn't have flexibility as a defensive tackle, can't really truly threaten as a pass rusher. He's got the moves, he's got the strength, but he's just too stiff. He also doesn't really have a whole lot of change of direction ability. You get him going one way, it's very hard. It's like trying to turn a ship to get it going the opposite direction. But I like him. He's got every bit to provide pass rush as well. But the next guy that we're going to talk about, like you talked about, he's number 3 on your list, number 7 on mine, is Darrell Jackson. And I bring verifieds for Darrell. 6'5", 341 pounds, 35 1/4 inch arms. You want to talk about a mountain of a man?
What was his weight?
341.
Holy shit, I had 330 and thought he was big.
Yeah, 341 is what we've got verified. So you thought he was big. Now he's even bigger and can eat more space and has the length at 35 1/4 inch arms to fill gaps, but also still has some short area quickness at 341 pounds, which makes it look even better. But also at the same time, my biggest concern with him is his motor runs very hot and cold. Sometimes he looks like he's on and dominates, and then he just disappears. And I think part of that is because he's 341 pounds and trying to handle that weight. It's the same conversation we had with Caden Proctor when we talked offensive tackles. You're just too big. And I think that's the concern that I would have is, can I put him as a full-time defensive tackle, even as big as he is? For me, Verified at 341 pounds is concerning. But man,
Yes.
you could tell me he's Calais Campbell, which is my comp for him, and I'm not blinking. I just, at 340 pounds and you're struggling to handle that with your motor, I can't spend anything more than a round 4 grade on it. I can't.
Interesting. I like him. I think he's got a little bit more to his pass rush. It is mostly power based, obviously at that size, but great power at the point of attack, good gap discipline. I think he's a decent athlete for his size, but if he's, as Ryan Spark, and I popped that up, good bigger or off-season bigger? I don't know. Maybe it's off-season bigger, and then that's not a good thing because I don't think any of these guys should be 340. You know, honestly, I thought he'd be better at like 325, 320. So it kind of, I was hoping to see a different number than that. But there's a lot of things I like with him. But he does have a high missed tackle rate, and there's a lack of consistent production. Like he'll produce, but it's game to game. It's not every game. And I think that's with the effort too. And that he's 340. That is concerning for me. I'm just going to be honest. It's very concerning. Let's do Zane Durant next. So he's my 4. You're 6. I love this guy as a pass rusher. I have 6'1", 290. So very curious to see if you have any officials on him. He's undersized, but he's strong as a fucking ox. Natural leverage, good quickness off the snap. Another Feldman freak list guy. I do have questions if he can add much more weight to his frame and keep his athleticism.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on Zane Durant?
So I do come bearing verifieds for Zane Durant, and that 6'1", 290 is verified. So that is accurate. And man, do you see it with that athletic ability? He moves in a way that it looks like he's shot out of a cannon. You know, also has a very good core strength to be able to anchor at 290 pounds and hold his own against double teams, but also is very laterally quick for a guy of 290 pounds. Yeah. The big concern, though, is his length. We're looking at 32 1/8 inch arms. So shorter arms than you would think for a defensive tackle. So it's going to cause some issues when offensive linemen get their hands on him. You know, his pass rush arsenal still developing. This is a guy that says, hey, I'm 290 pounds cannonball shot at you, and I have the athletic and the power ability to do so. I'm going to push through you. So, you know, ultimately, I would love to see him add on another 10 to 15-ish pounds. But man, it is tough to it is tough to have a defensive tackle at 290 pounds and not have concerns about his strength. But if you told me he was 300 flat, I would take it easily, 100%.
Yeah, and it's tough because if you typically see a guy that's 290, you're thinking 3-4. No, that is not him. Like, he is not going to be a 3-4 edge type of guy to me. Maybe, I mean, could he do it? Sure. But I think preferably I would want this as my pass rusher in a 4-3.
100%. I agree with you. I think he's got to go into a 4-3 scenario, but also at the same time at 290 pounds, he's a little heavy to play a 4-3. You know, the same conversation.
No, he's got to play. He's got to put 10 pounds on and be on the side. I'm also looking edge too, because like it's the same conversation we had last year with Tyleik Williams at Ohio State. Like, he was
kind of too large to play the edge, but also too small to play defensive tackle. And now you're trying to figure out where do you put Zane Durant. And I think that's kind of where we're at with him. Like he's got God-given athleticism and talent, but where the hell do you put him?
Yeah, I think it's fair. My number 6, your number 5, DeMonte Capehart, Clemson, 325, 6-year senior, high-level run defender, stout presence in the middle of the defense, 0 missed tackles, 9.5% stop rate. I just feel like the floor is very high for a good run defender here. Kind of like I'm blanking on the name, and I hate that, but the Texas run defender, Alfred Collins, 2nd round,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
I think that's kind of DeMonte Capehart, what he could be and where he could be drafted.
100%. And I've got verifieds for Capehart as well. 6'4", 313. So you're in that same ball.
313. I'm surprised
Yep.
he's only 313. He looks a lot bigger.
Yeah. He looks a lot larger, but even then at 313, it's still very it's still very solid. But I'm with you. He's a high floor run defender, but I mean, I have concerns about him as a pass rusher. There's just not much there. Like he's got a good burst, but there's no tools. There's nothing there as a pass rusher, which is why he ends up at 5. And that showcases how good his run defense is. But I mean, the other 4 guys ahead of him have something to offer that he just doesn't have.
Well, I think I'm down to 2 players on my list, and one of them is your number 4, my number 2. It's Caleb Banks from Florida, 6'5", 325. Played very well at the end of the season. Like if you're looking for the whole season, he ain't that guy. But
No.
versus Ole Miss, 2.5 sacks, 7 pressures. LSU, and these are good teams, 1 sack and 9 pressures. That was toward the end of the season. Great size, quick feet, active hands, good motor, 26% tackle rate, though, got to improve it. But if he can continue that momentum from the end of the season, I think this is a guy who's pushing for first-round territory with his athletic traits and his skill set and ability to rush the passer with good size.
Yeah, and I've got verifieds on him, so I'm gonna blow your mind on this one. 6'6", 334 for Caleb Banks.
Oh, so he's bigger? Holy
Bigger.
shit, I feel very good about having him at number 2 with the way he moves.
Yes, even bigger. I mean, he moves like he's 295, but 334 pounds. I mean, the way he moves is just absolutely nuts. He's also versatile. You could play him any spot on the defensive line because of his athletic ability and not blink twice. I mean, my concern is his pass rush arsenal. It's there, but it's still underdeveloped, especially when you initially counter his first move. So if he comes at you with a bull rush and you counter it, he's just kind of left in the water. But I mean, yeah, 6'6", 334 is nothing to shake a stick at when he's that athletic.
Yeah. The upside is very high with that one. I'll let you talk about Jaheim Otis, who was at Alabama, decided to transfer early in the season. I believe now he is at Colorado.
Yep, you are correct. So Jaheim Otis, now at Colorado, formerly of Alabama, 6'5", 325. So another one of these larger than life guys, heavy-handed at the point of attack, allows him to stack and shed blockers like nobody's business, can push a pocket with his raw power by himself. Does show flashes of interior pass rush, but isn't the most developed guy in the world when it comes to doing that. He's more of a gap filler, more of a run defender, kind of really a one-dimensional pass rusher. This is a guy in the mold of like a Sean Rogers for Detroit. He's going to be a very good gap filler, very good run defender, and has the ceiling to be a pass rusher. But right now, he just doesn't have it for Otis.
All right, that's fair. We'll do Corleone next. I have him at 9. You have him as your D tackle 1. So I'll just let you take over on him. I guess my biggest concern is the heart issue. He's got the size to be a run defender. I don't think he always plays like the best run defender.
Yep,
he's got
100%.
surprising get off and pass rush though. So talk about Corleone a little bit.
Yeah, so I bring verifieds for Corleone as well. 6 foot flat, 331 pounds.
Holy shit,
So
I had him at 320.
yeah. And you think about it too, he also made the Bruce Feldman freak list at 331 pounds. He benched 485, squatted 605, deadlifted 700, clocked 18 miles an hour on the GPS, and run a 4.68 shuttle, all at 331 pounds. That is a man that is moving. And, he is a motor that takes him sideline to sideline and a very good quick step for a guy that's 331 pounds. Also is a solid run defender. He's still emerging as a pass rusher, so he doesn't really have the full skill set to be able to do that, but he can develop that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he has enough functional pass rush ability to make it work as a defensive tackle. And I'm with you. The conversation about the blood clots in his lungs, where he kind of sits from that. We saw him come back last season from that, which in of itself is amazing.
Yes,
But to be able
true.
to even step on the field is amazing. But I think we're going to see the full version of what he can be. And my comp for him is Casey Hampton, the former Steeler defensive tackle, who made a career out of just pushing pockets around at his size. But yeah, 331 pounds for Corleone, and he's still moving like that is insane.
And then Peter Woods, D tackle, Clemson, 6'3", 315. I'm excited to see him play more often at defensive tackle because they had him playing edge a lot. Very violent hands, 22% win rate on true pass sets, 9% stop rate as a run defender. Him playing on the inside means a lot to me. I think he needs to have a better pass rush plan, but I'm excited about Peter Woods. And I think that he could be a top 10 player. You have him at 2, so maybe you're not too far off on how high he could go.
Yeah, and for me, Peter Woods is currently sitting at, let's see. So he's 25th overall on my big board, and part of that is just other positions that push him down the list a little bit. But he's my defensive tackle number 2 because, I mean, man, you see everything that you saw in Ed Oliver that you see in Peter Woods, just a fluid athlete, exceptional run defense instincts, knows where the ball is going to go before it gets there, and a motor that just runs all night long. His pass rush plan is very developed, but it's just predictable. Sometimes he just relies on his first step explosion and his bull rush, which works in the ACC, but I just don't know if it's going to work in the NFL. So that'd be my biggest go-do is kind of expand that pass rush plan and also not be as predictable with it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see if he can do that while playing more at D tackle. We will get into our linebackers. We're going to try to hit linebackers, corners, and safeties. We may have to do this a little faster than what we've done the other positions. But linebacker 10, you have CJ Allen. I have CJ Allen number 2, but let's go ahead and kick it off and our thoughts on CJ Allen. So I'll go first. 6'1", 235, a little undersized. Junior, reliable tackler, 6% missed tackle rate, 20 pressures, good straight line speed, just now turned 20 years old. He does take good pursuit angles, and he's played a lot of football. He has to be better in coverage. A 48.3 grade, but it's not just the grade. He hasn't been very good in coverage and limited sack production and not much overall splash play, interceptions, forced fumbles, all of that is in there. So is your number 10.
Yep. 100%. And you hit the nail on the head there. For me, he's very solid in a lot of areas, but he's a liability in pass coverage for me. Especially you watched him like in the Notre Dame game, their tight end ate his lunch and just took him to school. And against Tennessee, you see a lot of play action fakes that just left him frozen, like his feet were in quicksand. And for me, my bottom 3 guys, 8, 9, and 10 are all day 3 guys. And while he's a very good pass rusher and he's a very good tackler, when you're a liability in coverage, I can't use you as a 3-down backer. And I can't spend a day 1 or day 2 pick on someone that I feel can't be a 3-down backer.
That's fair. I will give my 10 and 9 because neither of them are on your list. And number 10 is Kyle Lewis from Pitt, 6 foot, 225. So very undersized, but the opposite of Allen when it comes to splash play production. 7 sacks, 4 interceptions, and over 100 tackles last year. One of the best cover linebackers in this class, alignment versatile, high football IQ, but he can get washed out of the play at times due to his size. And then number 9 is Lander Barton. A lot of people thought he'd be in last year's draft class. One of the last to find out if he declared or didn't declare last year.
Mm-hmm.
But 6'4", 236. So the length, he's athletic, and he is good in coverage as well. Rushing the passer with plus instincts, a high football IQ, and good ball skills. Injury in 2023 caused him to miss about half the season. Seems to be a good but not great athlete for the position. So that's my thoughts on those two. And I'll let you talk about Princewell Umanmielen, and then at your 9, and then 8 is Suntarine Perkins. So go ahead and kick that one off. Also my number 8.
Yeah, so with Princewell Umanmielen, obviously related to Princely Umanmielen, you know, a very good chase and tackle defender. This is a guy that could play a 4-3 or a 3-4. Some teams are going to prefer him as a 4-3 defensive end. Some will prefer him as a 3-4 linebacker, which is where I have him graded at, as a 3-4 linebacker, because he just really shows a good strength in run defense, shows a really good spin move and pass rush ability. But also he gets too aggressive, and that's his concern. Sometimes he gets too far up the field and takes himself out of the play and loses containment, but has every bit to develop as a star. I think his best fit is as a 3-4 outside linebacker at the next level. And sticking with Ole Miss, the next one is Suntarine Perkins from Ole Miss. When you watch Suntarine, he's listed at 6'1", 210 from what I have heard and seen. 210 is a bit of a stretch from what I've been told. Would it shock me if he comes in at 200? No. But I mean, even at 210 pounds, he's got a really good bend and really good flexibility. But you're right. It's small. There is no ifs, ands, or whats about it. He's got good bend, good flexibility, good athletic ability. He's got the dog in him as a linebacker in a 3-4 defense. But man, 210 is just it's a tough pill to swallow as a linebacker. If he were a little bit faster, I could have the conversation about kicking him on the back end to safety. But I mean, his coverage skills aren't that developed. In addition to that, I still have questions about his shoulder injury that he had prior to his junior season, as well as if he can stay healthy and what that shoulder looks like, especially when you rely so heavily on it for explosiveness. If he were a little bit more explosive and a little faster, I could convince myself to move him to safety. But right now he's a DPR that doesn't have a fully developed bag.
And we're talking about a guy at linebacker who plays mainly as an edge. Like what he's good at is big and edge rusher. So you're talking about moving him to safety. He's already a linebacker in our rankings. It's a guy who does his best work at the line of scrimmage and rushing the passer with his speed. And it's like, well, that will not hold up in the NFL because they're going to have quicker feet and they're going to shut you down. I know you play in the SEC. It's tough. I got him at 8 just because, like, he produces. It makes no sense that he produces rushing the passer like he does at damn near 200 pounds, but 10.5 sacks last year, 40-some pressures. The guy can get after the quarterback and is really good at it, but he is an enigma right now, so it is very interesting. Your number 7, McCullough, who has bounced around, not even 100% sure where he's at, to be honest with you, but a guy who's also a safety linebacker type guy. And then I'll talk about Campbell next. So tell us about McCullough.
Yeah. So with McCullough, verified at 6'5", 229 pounds. So has a very weird size, just like Umanmielen for the linebacker position. But also has good straight line speed. This is a guy that's probably going to run somewhere in the mid to high 4.5 range. You know, also has very good coverage skills, particularly in zone. You know, good tackling ability. But I mean, there's just not much in terms of pass rush ability. He gets by on his pure athletic ability. So this is one of those guys that I could also, if you told me you were moving him to safety at 6'5", 229 with a 4.5, I could convince myself of it. but he's stuck in this world of where do I play him? Not to mention he's been at multiple schools at this point. Now he's at Nebraska this season with Matt Rule, and how Rule uses him is going to be very telling for his NFL future. I think ultimately you kind of use him as a linebacker safety hybrid in an overhang, like in a 4-2-5 defensive scheme. But he's just got a very weird fit and a very weird body type. So it's tough to place him, but I mean, the talent alone in terms of athletic ability, that's why he makes the number 7 spot on my board.
Yeah. And he had a really good like freshman season. Where was that at? That's what confused. Was he at Nebraska before? Indiana. He was at Indiana,
Yep.
I think. Indiana, then Oklahoma, now Nebraska.
Yep.
I think that's what it was. Amari Campbell, 6'1", 230, true junior, transferring to Penn State from North Carolina. Good range, instincts, ability to get after the quarterback, disguise blitzes with active hands to get in passing lanes. Could add some functional strength and clean up missed tackles. That is my 7. Your 6 is Perkins. And man, is he everywhere. And you talk about a fit for what it's going to be. Not in my top 10, but obviously talent enough to be in everyone's top 10. But he's got to show it after being injured all of last season. So your thoughts on your number 6, Harold Perkins?
100%. And I mean, the big thing is he's got to show that he can be healthy and show that he has every bit of the ability that we know he does. Because, I mean, this guy's got a devastating pursuit, elite speed, gets sideline to sideline, creates havoc as a pass rusher. This is everything you want in a DPR as a DPR, because you could put him anywhere from edge rusher to linebacker. If you put him at safety at his size, because he's also 6'1", 225, I mean, man, you could put him just about everywhere, but 225 pounds is very legitimately concerning when you have him. I would use him ultimately as a DPR type of player. You bring him out on special schemes. He's not an every down guy, which is why he makes his way here at 6. He's kind of like a diet Micah Parsons. And when I say that, I mean, like, pretend Micah Parsons is like a sweet tea and Harold Perkins is like sweet tea that you had with ice, and now the ice is melted and it's really watered down. You'll still drink it. You'll still have it, but you're kind of disappointed in it. That's what you're going to get with Harold Perkins.
Amazing comp. Harold Perkins is a sweet tea that's watered down. The comp king never disappoints. Had number 6 for me, Torian York, 6', 235, undersized linebacker, only a 3-star recruit, immediately made an impact at linebacker for Texas A&M. Probably the best awareness and instincts in this entire class from the guys I watched. Always around football, team captain already, even though he's an underclassman. Looks smaller, though, than his listed size. It's all about size for York for me, what he ends up being. And part of that, he get lost in the mix when he's trying to fight through traffic. But I really like Torian York as just a natural football player who is all over the place and will make plays. So you're number 5, Randall Wilson, another Georgia linebacker who wasn't on my radar until we did the Georgia episode. But, yeah, he could easily be in my top 5. I just have him with 2027 right now, which CJ Allen could end up in that same class.
Yeah, I'm with you. At 6'1", 225, you know, this is a guy, elite speed, just an athletic nightmare. You know, it can go sideline to sideline consistency, a high energy level all night long, has good coverage skills in both man and zone, but that size at 6'1", 235, plus a pass rush bag that's still developing. I think for me, his current comp is what I think he can be. I think he can develop into Roquan Smith, a knifing linebacker that cuts through gaps, creates pass rush problems, and creates problem for offenses. But the height and weight percentile at 6'1", 235 is concerning. Length issues are a little bit concerning. He struggles with assignment discipline. So him being at 5 is more an indictment on his ceiling than what he actually is. Because I think also, like, I agree with you, I think he's a 2027 guy.
Yeah. I will talk about my 4 and 3, or my 5 and 4, which is Whit Wiggs and Sonny Styles. surprisingly not on your list, either of these guys. But Whit Weeks, 6'2", 228, true junior season he's heading into, had the lower leg injury in the bowl game, but expected to be healthy to start the season. Intensity, intense leader, intense football player, a guy who you like to say plays with his hair on fire. That's him.
Yep.
Considered a bit undersized. Not sure what his top end speed will be when he tests, but he diagnoses quickly. The range plays sideline to sideline and generated 19 pressures last year, rushing the quarterback, even though he wasn't asked to do that a lot. So that's why I have Weeks at 5. Sonny Styles at 4. Converted safety, 6'4", 235. Came back for his senior season. Had over 100 tackles last year and 6 sacks. The coverage skills, bit inconsistent, but he's very athletic. I think he can improve in that area, especially being a former safety. Excellent pursuit speed, good athleticism, good length. Second season as a full-time linebacker, I expect him to take a step, and that's why I have him as my number 4. Do you want to talk about either of those guys before you talk about Michael Harris? I believe from a smaller school. Honestly, not on my list at all. Haven't watched him. Need to watch Michael Harris, but any thoughts on Weeks or Styles and why they're not in your top 10 before Harris?
Yeah, and they're right. Weeks and Styles are right there. They're number 11 and number 12. So they are right there. You could easily flip between 8 through 12. All of those are interchangeable between Perkins, Umanmielen, Allen, Styles, and Weeks. So I see the vision with both of them, but I want to see more consistency. Michael Harris from Maryland, funky build, 6 foot flat, 216 pounds. Probably going to play more of a safety, but man, I mean, instinctual as a zone defender, very crafty on the edge, good against the run, even for his size, explosive sideline to sideline athletic ability, has flexibility to get around the edge, but he's a guy that you have to use as a pass rusher shooting through the gap. Your defensive tackle's got to fill a gap and he's got to shoot through right behind it because he just doesn't have the size to bend the edge very well. The problem is he's also 6 foot, so he's kind of maxed out for what he is. This is another one of those guys that are kind of in that linebacker safety-ish hybrid mold on my board. But the fact is he's so explosive, he could play safety. He's so quick and has the sideline to sideline ability. He could play the safety. I think ultimately his future is probably at linebacker. And again, it's another one of those things where even though he's my linebacker 4, that would be number 69 overall on my board. So that's a round 3 guy. So it's kind of the indictment of the linebacker class for me is that there's not a whole lot of guys that have emerged outside of number 1, who's number 1 for both of us. But there's a lot of fun things about Michael Harris that you would like, especially his explosive ability.
I think there's a lot of natural talent in this linebacker class, and guys will emerge, but I think it's a fair statement that you made that a lot of guys you're still wanting to see more.
Yep.
Deontay Lawson's my 3, 6'2", 239. I thought it could have been a day 2 pick last year. Decided to return to Alabama, had an injury late in the season. Great instincts, range, physicality, quick to diagnose and attack against the run, but coverage is just flat out not strength of his right now. And he's got to get better at that if he wants to stay up in my top 3. Your 3 is Campbell, who I touched on earlier, but you can talk about. And then Drake Bowen, 2 from who I have as a 2027 guy, but can see the vision for why he'd be number 2 on your list.
Yeah, and we covered Campbell. Drake Bowen, though, like you mentioned, is probably going to be a 2027 guy. But man, this guy just hits people with bone-rattling physicality, good closing speed, a motor that goes all night long, a clean tackler. This is a guy that's not going to miss a whole lot of tackles. Also has a multi-sport background in baseball as well, and you see it when he rotates his hips, bending the edge as a pass rusher, and his hand-eye coordination when getting after ball carriers, which is why he doesn't miss a whole lot of tackles. But the concern is his coverage skills are a work in progress, and that's what I would challenge him to work on this season. A lot of times he looks more kind of mechanical than he does actually fluid as an athlete. In addition, we've talked about it a lot, the size. He's 6'2", 239, which is perfectly fine for a linebacker, but it's still a little bit on the lighter side. I'd like to see him add just maybe 5 to 6 more pounds, get up to that 245 marker. But for me, he's a Demario Davis clone, and I would take that all day inside the top 50. But as a first round talent, I'm not there on that. I only have one first round graded player on my linebacker board, and it's number one for both of us.
Well, yeah, and we're both on the same page. I also just have the one. It's Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas, 6'3", 235, going into his true junior season. Athletic, physical, instinctive, great blitzer, 8 sacks last season, 23 pressures along with that. But he has to improve in man coverage, and he does over pursue at times, but he has all the traits to be a top 20 guy at linebacker, and linebackers are another position that is a little undervalued. But your thoughts on Anthony Hill Jr.?
Yeah, so 100% with Anthony Hill Jr. This is a guy that has every bit of the ability that you would look for at the linebacker spot to be a top guy in the middle. My concerns with him, it's weird because most of the time when you talk about a player of his caliber, you see, kind of a day one starter, but also, again, size concern, 6'3", 235 for Hill. So it's not like he has a perfect build, but the biggest thing for me is that he often oversees running plays and breaks his containment. And then the running play, he can't make the clean tackle and they're gone. Not to mention his man coverage skills. He gets eaten alive against tight ends, especially if they're quicker, as well as receiving running backs can get around him pretty fairly easily, especially if they're able to create separation. So I have questions on his coverage ability. But if you're talking about a pure pass rusher and a solid thumper as a run defender, Anthony Hill's that guy. But man, it's tough to watch him in coverage. And that's why while he does have a first round grade, he's one of my lower first rounders, being 19th overall out of my 21 grades.
I think that's all fair. Cornerback is the next position. We're going to try to get through 2 more, but we're 3.5 hours in. It's quite insane. Yeah. But
as I say, we can speed through. We can just talk about a couple of guys that you're high on.
Yeah, DJ McKinney, 6'2", 190. We both have him at 10 for Colorado. Mm-hmm. I think he has potential to be a first-round guy, but I need to see it a little more. Played opposite of Travis Hunter. This year, you are the man. So that's my thing with him. Anything on McKinney? Go into Matthews, who is your 9, and I have Matthews at 6, but limited snaps at Ohio State. So give your 10 and 9.
100%. So with McKinney, you're right on it. Now he's got to be the guy. Ball production's been a little bit average. He can get very grabby in coverage, and that's the concern when you look at DJ McKinney is what are you going to get out of him? Jermaine Matthews from Ohio State, I like him a lot. The problem is I just haven't seen enough. You got to see more.
Agreed.
You just got to see more. But I mean, he's got a good size, 5'11", 190, and he's got very good speed and flexibility in his hips to turn and run. But you've just got to see more from him. And, right now it's an indictment on this cornerback class. A lot of these guys are going to be wait and see type of guys. I don't have a single first round grade amongst any of these 10 that we're going to talk about.
I got a pretty I think my whole top 4 could be first rounders. I feel very good about Terrell at the top. Will Lee, long wide frame at 6'3", 190, and no one has more confidence than him. Delane that I have at 8, transferring to LSU from Virginia, 66 coverage grade, 75 run defense, the reliable physical tackler, and damn good coverage. I think this is a guy who could be in the conversation for one. Damani Jackson, traits for days, my number 7. Alabama entering his 2nd season, but was at USC for a couple seasons, and a good return guy. Best in press man coverage, needs to improve his off-ball skills and instincts. Number 5, I have Jair Hill, who's not on your list, but I guess I just continue the tradition of Michigan cornerbacks. 6'2", 185, true good in coverage, great top-end speed and length, good ball skills, but he does lack physicality, especially as a run defender, and could add some bulk, and only 1 career interception. So I'll stop there and save my top 4 because I have beliefs in them. Give me your 8 through, just give me your 8 and 7.
Yeah. So Xavier Scott, verified 5'11", 198. I mean, you look at his game and you see a guy that's very good at baiting quarterbacks in zone coverage, baiting them into interceptions. Also a very good tackler. This is a guy that's not going to miss really any tackles. But his press technique's going to need refinement. He's almost unusable in press coverage right now because he just doesn't have the strength to get there, which is understandable being 198 pounds. When we talk about frame, also, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about D'Angelo Ponz's frame at 5'9", 171 is what I've got, and that is light.
I love him though. Love it. Love it.
I love him. If he was 10 pounds heavier, if he was 180 pounds, he would probably be in competition for my corner 1 because of his tape. But 170 pounds is tough to convince an NFL franchise owner, hey, this guy's going to be 170 pounds. We're not sure he's going to stay healthy all season because of it. But man, I mean, he's got every bit of the ability in zone coverage, ball skills, and man coverage. He's got it all. But at 170 pounds, NFL GMs are going to see that, and it's going to be a conversation. It was a conversation with Nate Wiggins. It's going to continue to be a conversation. Even though corners in the league now are going to have to be lighter because they need to be faster to keep up with these wide receivers, there's a conversation where the pendulum can't swing too far that way. And Pons is going to be the ultimate case test of our team's going to say 170 pounds is fine. Bring him aboard.
And to be fair, I have Xavier Scott at 16, Pons at 14. Guy you've got higher on the list, Takario Davis, is my number 11. But let's jump into Jermon McCoy, who I have at 2. I have him at 2 because he was excellent last year outside that Ohio State game and man coverage specifically. He is a true put him on an island and he will do work. But he suffered an ACL, I believe, injury.
Yep,
or
ACL tear.
Achilles or ACL. ACL tear. And he may not play the whole season. So talk about McCoy and then jump into Harris, too, after that, who's 5 on your list. On mine.
Yeah, so with McCoy, it's exactly that. You hit the nail on the head. This is a guy you could put him on an island. He's got the ball skills to be able to handle anything in man coverage, zone coverage, very fluid. The reason he's 6 for me is that ACL tear. We may not see him at all this season. And at a certain point, if you go an entire season without playing, it's very hard to convince yourself that this is a number 1, number 2 corner because we also don't know how he's going to come back from that ACL tear. He may lose explosiveness and push himself down there, but all things considered, if he were healthy, he's in competition for cornerback 1, but I just can't in good conscience put him up there with that ACL tear. And AJ Harris, 6'1", 191, this is a guy has the ideal frame, the ideal length, a very muscular 191, probably the best press man coverage corner in this class. Just has a jam that just disrupts the entire timing of an offense and also is very ferocious in run defense. He gets downhill in a hurry, but he also is very physical and grabby beyond the 5-yard line marker. He's got to learn to keep his hands to himself because if not, he's going to get flagged like crazy at the next level. His tackling technique also needs some refinement. He comes downhill very well, but a lot of times I see him dropping his head too much. He relies on shoulder tackles. And while that may work in college, it's not necessarily going to fly in the NFL.
Yeah, I love how physical he is. And I love how physical he is, not only in coverage, but as a run support guy. That's why I have him at 3 on my list. And I think he could be a contingent for 1. But you're right. The penalties, the grabbiness, it has to lessen. Teams have to feel comfortable. Now, he won't be Davison Igbinosun from Ohio State last year with 16 penalties. But all right, let's move on to Malik Muhammad. Both of our number 4s here. Texas, 6', 190, true junior, 71.8 coverage grade, 64.7 run defense, position versatile. I think he could play some at safety. He has some at safety. Sticky in coverage, willing in run support, instinctive, high football IQ, does have a high missed tackle rate, and he needs to wrap up when tackling, not just toss the shoulder in there.
100%. And you hit the nail on the head there. A lot of times he plays, his tackling refinement just needs to be worked on. He also has times where he just plays too conservatively, just gives up unnecessary cushion because he's got the athletic ability and the speed to catch up with him, but he doesn't need to. In addition to that, he gets his hands on a lot of passes and has a lot of deflections, but doesn't convert them at the rate he should. But I mean, man, you're talking about a guy that could play both ways. This is the Jade Barron conversation for Malik Muhammad, but my comp for him isn't Barron. It's actually Marcus Peters, because ultimately you're going to see Muhammad kind of along that same path. He's a little bit lighter. He's listed at 190, but I've heard he could come in closer to 180 when it's all said and done, which isn't light enough to cause a concern like Pons, but it is still light. But I mean, quick twitch, fluid hips, has every bit of movement ability. But I mean, man, there's just a lot of issues with his tackling form. And in addition to that, sometimes he just plays too timid.
Yeah, all fair. You have Dakario Davis at 3 and Christian Gray at 2, who I have penciled for a 2027 guy. He left a lot to be desired, so I'm curious thoughts on why you have Gray so high. I know Davis transferring this year to Washington from Arizona, back with his coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I expect him to. He was 11th on my list for that. I think he could be up where you have him. But talk about those two, and then we'll talk about Terrell to end the corners.
Yeah, and with Dakario Davis, it's purely the size factor. This guy's 6'4", 190 pounds. Very good in man coverage, very good in press man coverage, and now he's back with his coaches at Washington that know how to use him effectively. So I fully expect him to be in. He was my cornerback 4 last year, so I fully expect him to land in that 3 to 5 range. Christian Gray, 6 foot, 187 pounds, is probably pound for pound the best ball tracker of any corner in my top 10. He just tracks it so well, gets his head around very quickly and working in trail well, and has good feet to mirror receivers. My concern, though, is his back pedal when he's first back pedaling. It's a little bit high, and his feet get a little sloppy, and he can't really turn and run effectively. So if you get a step on him, you're gone. You're taking it to the house. But if he stays with you, he's sticky in coverage. And that's one of the reasons that I like him, because he's, like I said, he's one of the best downfield ball trackers, good instincts, and he's got good quickness. It's just that back pedal is just, it's almost like he's tripping over his shoelaces.
Yeah, and then Terrell, we both have at number 1. 5'11", 180 is what I have. True Jr. For me, it's shades of Trent McDuffie. And I love Trent McDuffie coming out of Washington, and fantastic for KC. And whether you play him in the slot or the outside, because that will be the question, can he stay on the outside in the NFL at that size? I think he can, but he's undersized, but he great coverage ability, tenacious as a tackler, only years old, good speed, change of direction ability. Can he stick it outside corner? That's the only question I have. But I love this player as a guy who, if I drafted him, I would be like, this is a damn good football player, whether he's a slot corner or not, that I have on my team that is going to help me win games.
Bingo. And I gave him the comp, and it's a Browns-based comp. He's Greg Newsome, and Greg Newsome plays nickel for us, but could play slot for us in a pinch, and could also play outside for us in a pinch, because he's just a damn good corner. The other thing, too, is he also used to be a punt returner in his high school days. And also did kick returns in his high school days too, averaging 32 yards in his kickoff and 15 yards in punt return. So if you put him with special teams value, now you're convincing yourself of probably a late first round selection. But I mean, I don't have a first round grade on any corner in this class, and Terrell is my highest at my 26th overall player.
I got a solid first round grade on him. Just like I would take him and not think twice, but I get it. It's not a great class.
Yeah, 100%. And it's the size. It's the size conversation.
All right, we will move on to safety, and we will try to get through this as fast as possible. Let's just start at the top. Let's actually go top to bottom this time, so we can at least get Caleb Downs in here. 6 foot, 205, All-American, Alabama for a season, Ohio State for a season. 82 tackles, 2 interceptions, can do it all at safety, elite football IQ, versatile team leader, punt return ability, excellent as a run defender, and was good in coverage. He isn't the biggest guy at safety, could be more consistent with pursuit angles, but he's safety one. I don't think it's a question. There's some positions, some players that it's like, he's the clear cut number one going into the season.
100%. I mean, 6'2", 205, like you mentioned, this guy's clear cut safety one, and he's top 5 player overall on my board. He's actually number 4. I don't see him going top 5 in the draft, despite how talented he is, because he plays the safety position, which has been devalued. But I mean, just a punishing hitter, elite zone coverage, also can be a punt returner for you. He's very dangerous in that aspect and give you more special teams versatility. But I think it's hands down, he's safety one. And it's close because for me,
I know you like Thieneman. Yeah, you like him.
I like him. He's got a first-round grade for me, and I'll just jump right into him too. It's close between Downs and Thieneman, and I think if in any other year, Thieneman would be safety one, but just because he's got Downs ahead of him. 6 foot 207 for Thieneman, but has a very excellent closing burst and has elite diagnostic instincts. Probably the second best diagnostic safety outside of Caleb Downs. But you could tell both of them put their time in the film room. Thieneman's going to play deep safety, split field, hangover as a robber, nickelback, wherever you need him to play in the defensive backfield. He's going to play there. He's going to do well. This is a first one in, last one out type of player in Thieneman, and you see it on his tape because he knows what the quarterback's going to do before the quarterback even does it.
Yeah, and highly productive. Over 100 tackles both seasons at Purdue, transferring to Oregon. Physical, clearly a film junkie. Reported to have like 4.3 speed. There's not a lot to dislike with Thieneman, which I would know how I would have pronounced that. So I'm glad you said that last name first. But he's my 3, you're 2. Jalen Kilgore is my number 2. 6'2", 219. A lot of people have him at corner. He's got the versatility to be corner or safety. Good ball skills, had 5 interceptions last season, very physical, could improve with the ball in the air and panics at times and gets grabby. So he's got to clean that up, but I like him. And then both of our number 4s is Michael Taff, is how I say it, but I could be saying it wrong, from Texas. So talk about him and then talk about your number 3, which is Kamari Ramsey, which is my 5. So we're actually not too far off with a lot of this top 5.
No, and with Taff, the biggest issue for him is his size. So he is verified at 5'11", 175 pounds.
What? So I had 6 foot 195, 175.
Yep, verified 5'11", 175.
Oh, that's not
so
good.
But despite that, he still is a very good ball hawk in coverage, a very good processor who can diagnose routes, has good man coverage skills as a cornerback prospect, a clear film junkie. This is a guy that clearly can handle wearing the green dot for an NFL defense. But we get to the negative part, 175 pounds.
Oh, that hurts me. That hurts me.
That hurts. That's nickelback coverage size. That's not even corner. That's nickel. And he's still number 4 on my safety board because of how good he is and how cerebral he is as a football IQ guy and as a man coverage guy. But man, 175 pounds is pretty concerning. And it would not shock me if we see him start to kind of slide down the board a bit. And Kamari Ramsey.
Yeah. Now that I know that, I agree. But coverage guys, right? So him and Ramsey, that's all I'll say on them. You finish with Ramsey, but they're both really good in coverage.
100%. And that's exactly it. He's very good in coverage, has a very good mental processor. A little bit larger, 6 foot 204. So still a little light, but it's not 175 pounds like Taff. But I mean, his man coverage and mirroring technique it borders on a painting in the Louvre with how good it is. And he's my safety 3 for that reason. And I think he also brings something as a blitzer. But my concern with him is he just doesn't have the production. It's just not there for Ramsey. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think when you look at the safeties, especially at the top half of my board, there's a clear split between the top three and Downs, Thieneman and Ramsey. And then you get into guys like Taff and Johnson and Wisniewski and further on down that have a little bit in each of their games, but aren't the full package like Downs, Thieneman, and Ramsey.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Keon Saab, 6'1", 206, coming off a broken foot for Alabama, originally at Michigan. Great range, explosive instincts, ball skills to be a complete safety, but he lacks a little bit of the long speed, and he's got to improve pursuit angles. So, and my number 7, Zakee Wheatley from Penn State, 6'2", 200, redshirt senior. Experienced safety with over 1,500 snaps entering the year, but he wasn't even going to be that guy last year, until an injury. But he broke out with over 100 tackles, 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble. Elite 87.7 run defense grade. Did not record a single penalty, but he did allow 62.5% completion rate against in 2024. So that is my 6 and 7. Talk about your 5, 6, and 7. And you can talk about Wheatley, too, who's your 8.
Yeah. And when you look at it, Tal Johnson from Utah, he's good. He's a very good hybrid DB style, going to play the corner, nickel, and safety. Good awareness in zone, quick trigger and closing speed. He's a converted wide receiver, and you see it pop up on his tape pretty frequently, but he's not an elite athlete. This isn't a guy that's going to test well, but he's a gamer. He's a baller, and that's what you're going to get from him. Cole Wisniewski from Texas Tech, formerly of North Dakota State, 6'3", 221 for him. So he's got the size, almost bordering on linebacker-esque size. Very strong in run report and short zones, but he's very stiff. There's not a lot of change of direction for Wisniewski. Very limited range. In addition, there's medical concerns. He missed 19 games between 2022 and 2024, including the entire 2024 season because of an injury. So I got to see him stay healthy. And then my number 7, which is a guy that I think people are sleeping on, is Emmanuel Warren McNeil from Toledo. You look at his size, verified 6'3", 209. So he's got the size to play safety. Good quick trigger and run defense, can play all parts of the safety. If you want him as a box safety and run support, he can do that. Want him a deep safety and pass coverage, he can do that as well. Good tackling form and closes very quickly. The concerns with McNeil Warren is a level of competition. Obviously, going from Toledo to the NFL, we've seen a recent run of it with Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Alexander, but they had those same questions too. He also doesn't offer much in man coverage, which is a concern. It's not that he doesn't know how to do it or he's not good at it. He just hasn't done it before. And then with Zakee Wheatley, you pretty much hit at everything. 6'2", 198 verified. Good deep zone, good anticipation, and good length, but a pretty inconsistent tackler and pretty lean at 198 pounds as well.
Yeah. 8 through 10, and then we'll get your 9 to 10, and then we'll end this one. So Terry Moore, 6'1", 200, Duke, versatile player, good size, smooth athlete, good footwork, 71 tackles and a sack last year with 4 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. He doesn't have the ideal speed, did sustain an injury game, but it wasn't anything serious. Xavier Nwankpa, a lot of people had him higher on the board entering last season from Iowa, 6'2", 215. He's finally getting a chance to play free safety instead of strong. I think will help after a bit of a down year. Scheme versatile, physical, possesses good range, high football IQ, good pursuit speed, has to be better finishing tackles, and some hesitancy when he's fighting through traffic. Rod Moore injured all last season for Michigan, a guy that I honestly the year before thought he could have came out been a day 2 guy.
Yeah.
But entering redshirt junior season, a little smaller, but good ball skills, athleticism, route recognition, and pretty good run defender. So that's my 8 through 10. Now talk about your 9 and 10.
Yep. So number 9, Randon Fontenot from Vanderbilt, 6'2", 214. So he has that size. Good read and decipher player. This is a guy who can see it, decipher it, figure it out, and hit pretty heavily. A good downhill hitter and good ball skills. Good anticipation and vision for zone coverage, good hand-eye coordination. The concerns with Fontenot is he plays with his hair on fire, but it's to an extent where he is just out of control all the time, misses a lot of tackles along the way. When he's the single high safety, he tries to gamble too often, and it leads to a lot of blown plays, which is going to be concerning at the NFL level. And wrapping it up, Deuce Chestnut from Syracuse, a little bit on the shorter side, verified 5'10", 204 pounds when you look at him. So a little bit on the smaller side for a safety position. But I mean, the big thing is he's got a good feel in zone coverage and does very well at it, and also can mirror well in man coverage. So very good hips to be able to flip and turn and run with guys. Brings a pop as a tackler, especially when you're 204 pounds. But the concern is he just doesn't have the long speed to keep up with some of the faster receivers that he'll see in the NFL. So if you're the safety and you're the last line of defense and you don't necessarily have that long speed, and I have to give you help over the top, now it's a concern of if I can use you as a safety, or maybe I draft you to be a nickelback, which if I'm going to do that, I'm going to spend probably around 4 to 5 grade on him, which is why all the guys from number 8 on down are day 3 talents for me.
And underrated band, Nickelback.
Love it. 100%.
No, Bill, shout out, man. Almost 4 hours into this show. Unbelievable content. You're amazing. Maybe people didn't like the content, but I don't care. I did. I enjoyed it. And to go through all this with Bill was absolutely incredible. And I hope to have Bill back on through draft stuff, but also prior to week 1 to talk some Browns versus Bengals football.
100%. I love chopping it up on the NFL draft stuff. So anybody that's watching, if you're still watching, make sure to go check me out over on X at Spark Scouting. You can also check me out TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Substack. Just search Spark Scouting and I'll pop up. Also a writer and analyst for the Right Way Sports Network, TWSN.net. Love talking NFL draft, college football, NFL. Hope to be back so we can talk week 1 Browns versus Bengals, chop it up and have a little fun. But man, almost 4 hours with you, Dale, and wouldn't have visioned it any other way spending a Sunday with you, man.
It was insane. It was an insane amount of time to try to get through all this, but we got through it, Bill. And I don't know that many people could get through every position in 4 hours and cover it the way we did. So thank you. And thank you anybody that tuned in, and check all his stuff out and just follow him at Spark Scouting. If you can't remember all this stuff he's doing, just follow him at Spark Scouting on Twitter/X. And then you'll see all this he's doing, and he's doing big things, man. Even though he's a Browns fan, we love